This is a complete 4-hour course on getting 0% interest funding for your business. We're covering everything from how to set up your LLC correctly, how to fix your personal credit so banks approve you, and what business credit actually is, which banks to use, and how to apply for these cards the right way. This is the same process we use to get our clients $50,000 to $150,000 in funding. I'm going to show you how to properly set yourself up to secure $150,000 or more in 0% interest funding in a short period of time, how we're going to handle denials, what happens if the banks deny your application or don't give you the limit that you're looking for, how that works, and how we can really fast track this process, which is going to heavily rely on something called optimization, which I'm going to cover very much in depth. You're going to hear me use that word a lot, which is optimization. A few agreements before we begin. What I'm sharing with you may have heard before or you may not have, but it does require full focus and attention. That helps me, that helps you ultimately. And business funding is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's highly personalized to each individual. Not one single client has gotten the same exact amount as another client. Everybody's different. Even if it's a few $100s difference, everybody's different. Okay. And then lastly, you will have the opportunity, if you would like to work with us, you can, but you are not required to. So there's no sales pitch at the end other than, hey, if you want to book a call, see what you're qualified for, you can do that. And I'll share that link with you as we go. Other than that, let's keep it rolling. So who's this workshop for? It is for anybody who is new or established entrepreneurs, business owners looking for funding. Okay. If you haven't started yet, but you want to start, and maybe you even need help set up your LLC, we can help you with that too. Or we have clients that have been in business for 30 plus years and they're just looking to scale up, or they, want to use some extra funds for whatever they need it for. Okay, so any business owners. And it's not for you if you don't have a business and never intend to start one. Then it's probably not going to help you because it's for business funding. Or if you have bad credit history and you have, less than a 680 score, bankruptcies, collections, a bunch of late payments, then most likely you're not going to be able to get qualified for funding at this time. But we do have a good credit repair company that we work with that would love to help you out, and they do a good job. So you'll get access to them too. Just look out in your emails. All right. So our paradigm and how we get you funding. First is profile optimization, application blueprint, delete inquiries, and get you secured upwards of 150K or whatever you're qualified for. Now, 6 commonly used of funding strategies. Okay, so there's really everything for business funding, from loans to credit card stacking, 0% balance transfer, personal cards, BLOCs, which is business lines of credit, using personal credit strategies for building your business, and then working with funding consultants. This is everything that we're going to go over right now. So let's break them all down. All right, credit stacking. This is using multiple business credit cards that have a 0% APR. So you may or may not have heard that term, while you're watching videos. If you've seen my videos, now you've probably seen dozens of other companies' videos popping up all over your social media, and everybody's doing what's called credit stacking. Okay, the pros of this is typically you get fast approvals, sometimes 2 to 4 weeks or even less, depending on how your profile is optimized. High total credit limits, anywhere from 50 to 250K is possible. 0% APR, 6 to 18 months, but most commonly 12 months. This does help to build your business credit, which is completely separate from your personal credit. So your EIN does have a credit score as well. So this helps that. And then the biggest thing is this separates all of your business expenses from your personal. So it's really important to keep those two separate, especially for accounting purposes. Cons, it does still require strong personal credit, over 700. You can't really get around that. You do get multiple inquiries throughout the process. However, working with, companies like ours or other companies, we do delete those inquiries for you. So you don't have to worry about your credit score taking a big hit from all these inquiries. Those get removed when we're finished. And then some issuers, you can, get lower amounts depending on how you were optimized. And obviously, you want to make sure you can manage all those cards and payments. And really, it doesn't have to be a lot. It's not like you're getting 12 different cards. Sometimes it's only 2, sometimes it's 4 or 5. But the biggest thing I recommend for this is just setting up auto pay as soon as you get those cards. It'll save yourself a ton of headache later. And then because they are cards, a lot of times people fear that they need cash for something, a down payment for something. There is cash liquidation that's possible. Usually that's with a fee. There are companies that specifically do that. We don't liquidate cards for clients, but there are credit card liquidation companies, and we do work with some that we can send your way. Now, traditional business loans. A lot of times we get into business, first thing we think is a business loan. Okay, the pros to business loans is you can get a large cash injection into your business, and we can see how that can be beneficial. Typically, 3 to 5 year payment plan also builds business credit. Cons, these can take a lot longer for approval, sometimes 3 to 6 months. It's very standard. Now, you do have other qualifications. To get a business loan, your business does need to be in business for a minimum of 2 years. You do need positive tax returns as well as bank statements that you can show, consistent cash flow coming in. So it's a different qualification. This is more so if you're a little bit more established, you're already making money, you have tax returns and bank statements to prove it. Okay. Sometimes they can require collateral if your business isn't strong enough. And then, with interest over 5 years, sometimes you can end up paying double. But again, sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. Just depends on what you're doing. Now, business line of credit, very similar to business loans, but it's a true revolving credit line. So it's not a card, it's not a loan that has to be, paid back and then it's gone. It's revolving. So you use it, you pay it back, it's still there. You can always have it. I like these. They do have more flexibility. Also builds, business credit. Sometimes lower rates, just depending on, your profile, but very similar qualifications as business loans. Okay, still 2 years in business, still tax returns, still positive bank statements to actually get qualified for a business line of credit. Especially for higher lines of credit, it's just going to require your business to be stronger and a higher revenue. All right, any questions on any of this stuff coming up, please pop it in the chat. These are all things that, people have questions on usually in our communities and ask us. So this is a good time to ask those questions. And I'll also throw our link here in the chat if you did want to see something more personalized to you, see what you could qualify for. Save that link, and in case you got to leave early, you can always hop on a call with us next week or tomorrow. All right, using personal credit cards. Pros, really easy to get approved for as long as you have a good, credit score. And they do offer 0% APR, sometimes even longer than business credit, up to 18 months or even further. And there's really no need for any complex business setup or any really optimization. Just good score, low utilization, you can get personal cards. Okay. The cons, this is 100% personal liability. When you're using personal credit cards to build your business, you're going to have things like utilization issues. I would say probably 70% of our clients coming to us are overutilized in personal credit because they've been using their personal cards to start and grow their business. So now they have high utilization, which makes it harder to get approved for other things like business loans or harder to get approved for business credit because they've just been building with their personal credit cards. Okay. Also gets difficult to separate personal expenses from business expenses, and you just want to kind of avoid all of those issues and tax issues. Now, we do have ways to help our clients that do have high utilization, and we'll go over a little bit of that in the next few slides. Now, working with funding consultants, we would be considered a funding consultant. You do get expert guidance in sequencing the applications, much higher likelihood of approvals and larger limits than just doing it on your own. Does include pre-qualification, so this will help to avoid excess inquiries, saves the guesswork, helps to avoid denials. A lot of pluses that come with working with somebody. Okay. Cons, typically there are service fees, anywhere from 9 to 15% of the total funds raised. We don't charge that. We have a better fee structure. And most, obviously you want to choose a reputable company, and they still need good credit. Working with, I get this a lot. Don't you guys have, some best friend in underwriting who will just do what you say and approve whatever you want? No, unfortunately, that doesn't exist. These are still banks. They still do have rules. So you do have to have a good score and a good profile to get qualified. Okay. We just optimize you the right way. We know all the data points. We have the exact blueprint that the banks want to see for someone to get approved at the highest levels. All right, so we run a 5-step process for all of our clients and we don't skip a step. So number one is personal credit preparation. This is our entire optimization strategy. Business entity setup, so making sure you don't have a high risk name, high risk LLC, making sure your LLC is live and active, the right bank account set up. We do build you a custom application plan, submit strategically, and then obviously you got to manage your funding and put it to work. It's the most important part. All right, so let's break it down a little bit. I'm going to pause right here for a few. This is the most important part. Okay, so take a screenshot, take some notes. This is where I would expect some questions to come in, but this is the optimization step. Okay, these are the ideal requirements. So I'm going to give you the best case scenario. It doesn't mean if you don't have all of these that you can't get qualified. This just affects how much you can get. Okay, so obviously 700 and above credit score. The higher it is, only the better. And then having at least $20,000 in personal credit limits. So you may ask, why do I need to have $20,000 in personal credit limits? Personal credit cards are unsecured debt. Okay. And the banks will look at how you've treated your personal credit cards, how long you've had them. Do you have high limits? Are they from tier one banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, American Express? Because if those tier one banks trust you with cards that have 5, 10, 15, $20,000 limits, now that tells these banks that they can definitely trust you as well with even higher limits for business credit. Okay. Now, 20,000, is that all added up together? Is that on one card? It's really all added up together, but not a bunch of low limit cards like $500 Amazon card, $700 card here, because then the banks aren't going to give you really high limit individual cards. Okay. The ideal situation is if you have one or even more cards that have a $10,000 limit and above that you've had for minimum over a year. The longer you've had them, even better. Now, we have gotten clients that have, maybe 3 cards with $5,000 limit and then, a few other cards. We've gotten good funding for those types of clients too. So it doesn't mean that if you don't have this, you can't get funding, but I'm just giving you the best case scenario for the highest limits over 6 figures in funding. The higher limit cards you had, the longer you've had them, is just going to yield better results. Okay, it puts more trust in you in the bank's eyes. Now, credit utilization under 30%. This isn't overall profile under 30%. This is each card under 30%. Now, we've gotten people that have had cards at 45%. We've gotten someone over 100,000 that had utilization like that. But they had a lot of other good things going for them. They had good mortgage history, good auto loan history, good personal loan history. So there's, imagine that there's 2 columns of pluses and negatives. The more you have in the plus category is going to be a more well-rounded profile. So things like, mortgage history that you've had for, years, auto loans, maybe past auto loans you've paid off, current auto loans, maybe personal loans, maybe recreational loans, credit cards that you've had for a long time, even an LLC that you've had for a long time. All of these things are in the plus category. So then if you have all these pluses and then maybe you have one card that's at 35 or 40% utilization, we can still do pretty good with that because you've got all these other positives. Now, if you have nothing else on your profile except maybe 2 cards and they're both at 45% utilization, now you really don't have a ton of pluses. You just have, negatives. Okay. So each profile is going to be different how we look at it. Now, what do we do with those tons of clients that come to us and they have high utilization? We have a personal loan program that we utilize, for people that qualify. And again, probably 80% of our clients get approved for that we can use to pay down high utilization. And we also use that for funding bank accounts when we need to open up, more business bank accounts to really optimize your profile. So that's one strategy that we use. Usually we get up to 45,000 for one personal loan. That can also be used for your business. But a lot of times we use that to pay down utilization. So that's one thing we can do to get around that. Okay, if qualified. Now, no recent late payments within the last 12 to 24 months. That's ideally over 24 months, no late payments. If you do have maybe one late payment that's within the last 24 months and it's only a 30-day late, maybe we can squeak by and get some good approvals, but we do recommend no late payments within the last 24 months. Okay. Now, for sure, no major derogatories, collections, charge-offs, bankruptcies, even if they are 3, 4 years old. I've seen banks, especially in 2025, just flat out denying profiles for, these types of issues on your profile. So you're going to want to get with a credit repair company to get those old collections and charge-offs removed before applying for funding, if you want to have way better odds of getting approved. And then lastly, fewer than 2 to 3 inquiries within the last 6 months. Now, sometimes we can remove inquiries if you do already have a lot, just depending on the type of inquiry. If it is attached to a personal account that is active on your credit report, that can't be removed. If you went to a car dealership and they ran your credit 6 times, or a mortgage company and they ran your credit a bunch of times, we can remove a lot of those inquiries, just not the one that you actually got financed with. Okay. Any questions on, this optimization step of how your profile should look? Anything at all? Here we go. Awesome. Would you suggest establishing a banking relationship and depositing money into personal accounts prior to attempting to get personal credit from credit cards? So you're saying personal credit. Um, Personal credit, no, you don't necessarily need to have a bank account with that bank to get personal credit and personal credit cards. Business credit, yes, we do recommend our clients to set up bank accounts and deposit money for a business checking account before we go to those banks. I always recommend having, like, if you want maximum funding and you're willing to do whatever it takes to achieve that, then I say to have a business checking account with Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and US Bank. I know that's 4 bank accounts. Maybe you already have a few of these, but to have best results and maximum funding, I would recommend setting up bank accounts with those 4 banks and depositing money into those a few different times to actually season those bank accounts and let those be open for a couple weeks. What's the acceptable age of the credit lines? Really at least a year, having those credit lines for a year. If you have a bunch of brand new cards that are under a year, that's going to hold a lot less weight in the bank's eyes. Now, if you have old cards that you've had open for 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, and then you did get a new credit card within the last year, that's a different story. But if you have nothing and then all of a sudden you applied for a bunch of new cards, that's when you're probably not going to get the best results for business funding. They want age. So again, that's a profile that we would probably want to look at a little bit more closely to really see the whole picture of it. Is there auto loans? Is there mortgage? What kind of history is on there? You know? So good questions. And I hope that answered your question too, Brian. We do want to set up business checking accounts with the banks that we're going to work with. And then the rest of the banks, we do use other banks, but they don't really need you to have a bank account there. Okay. So other than that, you should be good to go. Good questions. Keep them coming. I love it. All right. Business entity setup. So again, best case scenario, obviously an LLC formed or a corporation. So yes, we always get asked, do S corps work? Yes. C corps work? Yes. Just really not sole proprietors. If you do have an EIN, you're a sole prop, like, yeah, you could probably get a card, but really banks like to see LLCs and other corporations to give you max funding. Okay. Obviously, you need to have an EIN. And then this is the business checking accounts, like Brian was asking. You do want to have business checking accounts set up. Let me tell you why. Each bank wants to feel like you are going to be using them. Like you're going to do all of your banking through them. You're going to get your auto loans. You're just going to start using them for everything. Okay? So if you're applying for a card from them and you don't have an account there, can you get approved? Yes, you can. but you have much better odds about getting higher limits and better approvals if you already have a business checking account set up there and they're seeing you depositing money into there. That's giving them the good feeling that you're going to be using them and that you're going to continue to go to them and do other stuff with them. So they're going to be more willing to play ball with you and give you higher limit cards. Okay, so business checking account for sure. Now, everything else below this is just to build more legitimacy in your business. Okay. The business phone number, most people use cell phones now, so this really only applies to like brick and mortar locations. If you're a restaurant or a coffee shop or a lawyer's office or something like that, yeah, a business phone number is going to make sense. But everything else, e-commerce, real estate, fix and flip, all that type of stuff, you don't necessarily need to have a business phone number. If you want one to separate things, you can get a Google Voice number and that would be fine. But now address, okay? So you don't want to use a PO box. Most importantly, you don't want to use a PO box. That's like number one reason for denial is having a PO box because a lot of times the banks, they have a system that checks what that address is. And if it just looks like a mail place, they don't like that. It doesn't give them the confidence that this is a legitimate business. If you are a brick and mortar, then obviously you have a business address. But if you don't have a brick and mortar, don't use a PO box. Use your home address. Worst case scenario, you can still get over six figures. Kane in that last video, 170 something thousand dollars, and he used his home address. Okay, but even better is something called a virtual office address. In every state, they have virtual office addresses. So you can just do a simple Google search and look for a virtual office address that you can purchase an actual address that'll have a location. You can receive mail there, but you want it to, when you Google it and Google Earth it and look up, the street view or whatever, you want it to actually look like an office building or a legitimate place, not just a mail place. Okay, so worst case, use your home or set up a virtual office address. All right, any questions there? Let me know. Now, websites, again, really only apply if you are offering some sort of service, coaching, consulting, you're a brick and mortar, you're e-commerce, you're something along those lines, then a website's going to make sense and banks are going to like that. Again, if you're a fix and flipper, real estate investor, holding company, something like that, then maybe you don't really need a website address. Okay. Or not, a website. Now, lastly, something that is very important is a professional email. Whatever your LLC is, or your DBA, or your business name, you're going to want to have your name at that business name. Okay. And you can set those up with almost any of the mail providers can set that up for you. Or if you have a domain, you purchase a domain. If you used, any of the services to set up your corporation, like MyCorp, LegalZoom, Zen Business, a lot of those places will also offer, professional emails. All right. Any question on your business entity setup? I'm going to give you a little quick tip too. Type in your business name into ChatGPT and ask if this sounds like a high risk name in the bank's eyes. Okay. It's really important how you name your LLC too, because there's higher risk businesses like logistics, real estate investing, things like that, that the banks will give you less money for or could cause denials, all based on how you name your LLC. You want your LLC to have a general name, something that is a little bit more vague and doesn't really say that, you are this high risk business. Okay. And sometimes we'll say, hey, you might want to drop the, fix and flip or the trucking at the end of your, LLC name because it's gonna look really risky to the banks. Okay. And you can always file amendments and get those things changed. I have a virtual office and Chase called me and checked me to pivot to home when opening my business checking. All right. Was it like, how did that look? Was it like a mail place? When it was Googled, did it look like an actual virtual office or how did it look? So you want to check on that because the banks are really, really looking into this now. It has to be like, a top tier legitimate virtual office address. And again, if you don't have that or you don't want to do that, then use home. They are okay with home. Like I said, we've gotten tons of our clients good funding with home addresses, just not PO box. And a lot of the virtual office addresses now are coming up as check cashing, not check cashing. They're coming up as just mail places. So if Googled, you definitely want to avoid that. Thanks for mentioning that, Tony. So if all else fails, use your home address. All right, application plan. This is where sequencing does matter. Okay. Banks like Chase and American Express and Bank of America are highly inquiry sensitive. Okay. So you want to pay attention in the order of applications. I will always recommend Chase first. They're very, very finicky when it comes to seeing a bunch of other applications. Okay. They have 524 rule, they have all these rules, and they don't want you applying for a bunch of stuff. So we always recommend at least Chase first. Now, American Express, they have two 0% interest business credit cards. However, to get higher limits on those cards, they're going to want you to already have an existing relationship with them, like having another American Express card. So if you have a gold or a platinum or another American Express airline card or something like that, then I would say to apply for American Express business 0% cards. If you don't have any relationship with American Express, then I would wait on those cards, get a gold or a platinum card and have that for, a little while, use it, pay it down, use it, pay it down before you apply for the 0% cards. I've seen so many times where you apply for those cards and they start you off with a $2,000 limit. Okay. Wherein you could have gotten 25 or 20 or 15 or something much higher by already having a relationship there. It seemed totally legit with conference rooms and everything. Just got my personal Amex through Schwab account. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know what happened with that one, Tony. We do use a virtual office address ourselves, and it's always been good. But maybe they've had what I do know is a lot of times people are using the same virtual office address, and banks are getting a ton of applications with the same address. So it could be that that location was kind of flagged, because they're getting just dozens of applications. I do know that we have another corporation set up, and I think it's like Delaware, and almost everybody there uses the same virtual office address. So in things like that, they may have it flagged and know what's going on. That's awesome. That's awesome that they called you first and kind of gave you a heads up. So that was nice of them. Most of them don't do that, but sounds like they wanted your business. So, all right. So pay attention to the order that you apply. Again, some are more sensitive than others. Outside of that, applying for everything in a short period of time will also help. When we're doing stacking for our clients, when we're doing the applications, we try to apply for everything, at once in the same day outside of the banks that we're using relationship managers for. And even when we are using relationship managers, we want to, we time them so we know when they're kind of putting in those applications, and then we'll do the rest all at the same time. So that way we're kind of limiting the amount of inquiries that are being shown. Okay. And a relationship manager, if you don't know, is a representative that works at the bank. They don't typically work in the branches. So most relationship managers work remotely and they cover geographical areas and they specifically work with small businesses. Okay, so we have these relationships that we utilize, and they send your applications to real underwriters, humans, and it's not just the computer deciding how much you're going to get. So there is a benefit to using those, and they're different than a banker that is just working at the branches. Okay, so just to kind of separate some of that. All right, any questions there? Keep them coming. I love it. Now we kind of talked about submitting strategically, some same day online. Others would be within a few days. That's if you're using relationship managers, bank reps. Obviously, it's a little bit harder to time, but you kind of want to have everything done, within a few day period. And then obviously answering income questions carefully. Business credit card applications are stated income. The only time they're going to ask you for proof of income is if you're putting extremely high numbers, million, 2 million, 3 million. Now, if your business is doing that, then definitely use those numbers, but just be prepared to submit supporting tax returns to prove that. If you don't have tax returns to prove that type of income, then I wouldn't put it. Now, if you're a new business just starting out, maybe you're not making any money or you're not making very much money, treat the business revenue question as what do you project you will make in the next 12 months? Okay. Projected revenue. Projected revenue. Can't say that enough. I can't tell you the exact amount to put down. We know what the banks like, but just make sure you use something that is projected and higher when you're putting down the business revenue question. And then personal income, you want to make sure if you added up all of your expenses, that are on your credit report, the banks can see what your monthly expenses are. You want to at least be, 2 to 3 times higher than that for personal income. Okay. So any questions on income questions, stated income revenue, just let me know. I'd be happy to answer that for you. Okay. So aggregate and manage your funding. Okay, you're going to receive multiple cards ranging from 5 to 50. As long as you do optimization the right way, it should be much higher than 5. You should be looking at, 10K plus cards and even higher. All 0%, typically right around 12 months. Now, you can use all this stuff for, vendors, if you're in real estate, purchasing all your materials, paying contractors, e-commerce, buying supplies, marketing. I highly invest almost every business to invest in marketing. The more people that know you exist, the more people that can buy from you. Okay. And then again, I'll touch on liquidation. So credit card liquidation is not just asking the bank to send you a cash advance. They charge astronomical fees for something like that. But there are companies that liquidate credit cards, and we work with a very reputable one that we can always refer you to. And you'll get access to that inside of our community, which we'll send you an invite to after this. So you can get cash off the cards, okay? And then at the end, you can add up the limits of all your cards and then have your total limit and then get to work building your business. Make sure that you have a plan to 2 to 3x the money that you're getting. Okay. It doesn't make sense to get six figures in funding and then not really put it to work. You have 0% for an entire year, put that money to work, allow it to make you more money. That way you can pay those cards off. You don't have to worry about high interest and you actually fast forwarded your business by 3 years. That's the idea. That's the whole strategy behind this. All right, so we got a few options here. One is you can do nothing with what you've learned today, and hey, that's totally okay. You could take what you've learned, expand on your knowledge, and try it on your own. Totally cool. Or you could leverage our proven method and secure as max funding that your profile will allow. All options are totally okay. It's your business. You can do whatever you want. All right, so our unlimited funding system and how we help our clients. We build everybody a customized optimization plan, highly customized. We do give you one-on-one support from the start to the finish. Customized funding plan as well. Again, depending on what state you're in, we'll give you access to different banks, different cards, what you already have. Everything's highly customized. We do done-for-you applications. And afterwards, we delete those inquiries off your profile so you're not stuck with a bunch of inquiries. Any questions there? Let me know. How this works is you can book a consultation with myself or my business partner, and we do a pre-approval. This is the most important step. We have AI underwriting software that will give us a very conservative estimated pre-approval of what you could be qualified for. I say it's conservative because we do not like to overpromise and underdeliver. So we have it set to conservative, and a lot of times we do get you much more than that. But again, at least have a rough idea what you could for sure get. Okay. And then we do a lot of the work, and then everything else that we need you to do, you're guided step by step throughout the whole process. So that way you're not getting confused. or lost in the steps. And you're building your business, right? So worrying about all this stuff sometimes can be daunting. Quick check-in. If you're still watching, make sure you actually take notes. I'm giving you everything here, but information without implementation doesn't help you. Write down the key points, pause if you need to, and actually apply what you're learning. Let's keep going.
Hey everyone, welcome to the first step within the hard inquiry removal kit. So this is very vital. I think that every single one of you need to make sure that you get an Experian.com account. So grab that account, and they generally do a free trial, but if they don't, if they don't have the free trial, still grab the account, okay? Because what you're going to need to do is first you need to find out what inquiries you have, and you got to write these down. So this is one of my clients. They've decided to allow us to utilize their profile as a demonstration. But you want to look at each one of your credit reporting agencies. So you have Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. So what you're going to do is when you get in here, you're going to go to credit, you're going to go to credit reports. Okay. And that should pull this up. Once you pull that up, scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's a section called inquiries. Okay. So these are all your hard inquiries that need to get removed off of your credit profile. So on this one, she has 2. Okay. So we're going to write these down. So the things you want to write down are you want to write down the exact name in the format of how it's done. So like all caps JPMCB, right? And you also want to write down the date that the inquiry happened. Okay. So February 5th, 2024. So when you click that, write down the name, like, so this whole thing. And then you want to write down the date that it happened. And then you also want to put this in the column of these are Experian only. Okay. So the next ones you want to do is you want to go to Equifax. Okay. So once you're in Equifax, you look at the Equifax report, scroll all the way to the bottom. And so she's got 6 here. So you're going to write down the name and put this under Equifax and the date that the inquiry happened. All right. So same thing, all of these. Okay. And the reason you need them separately is because you're going to have to create these documents that we're going to utilize to get these removed. Okay. So now let's go over to TransUnion. All right. We're going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And as you can see, this person has 10. So you're going to get the name spelled exactly the same way and the date. Okay. So this is how we're going to get all of these removed. All right. So once you have all these written out, this is very important that you have it. You're going to be in a good position because now we can go ahead and create the documentation to go ahead and get these removed. All right. So hope this helps. You also just want to kind of clarify this for those for cheaper people. I know this product is cheap. So for my cheaper people, if you just want to get Experian and get the free version, you will only have access to the Experian credit profile. But if you want to get the remaining Equifax and TransUnion inquiries, you can also use Credit Karma. All right. Just a little hack for you. So that way, for those who are like, I ain't trying to spend money on nothing else. All right. You can get the Credit Karma. And when you get the Credit Karma, that'll give you Equifax and TransUnion, and then you can use Experian for Experian. All right. Hope this helps, guys. That's step number 1. Make sure you get this done really quick. The next step is you got to create this document. It's called the FTC report. And so a lot of times if you were to call in and get your inquiries removed, they're going to ask you, do you have an FTC report? So this is how you get it. It's very easy to get. So you go to the FTC website, identitytheft.gov. And once you get here, all you have to do is click get started. So once you get started, you're going to basically go ahead and get to the point where they'll allow you to fill out the report. So the first step, you want to say, I want to report identity theft. Okay. So they're going to ask, like kind of pick whichever option it was. So you're going to say credit card accounts. Okay. So next. And then they're going to say, tell us how your information was misused to open a fraudulent credit card account. And now it's going to say you need to fill out an FTC report. So you're going to click continue. So now that takes you to the spot to where you fill out an FTC report. So it's going to ask you what company or bank issued the credit card. All right. So once you get here, now you're going to enter one of your hard inquiries for the particular bureau. So I'm going to start with TransUnion. So only do the ones that are on TransUnion for this FTC report. You're going to have to do this 3 times. So one is going to be for Experian, one's going to be for Equifax, one's going to be for TransUnion. So I'm only going to do this one for TransUnion. So let me grab that. So you simply just go ahead and paste the the name of the first inquiry. You just got to put 1 here, okay? And then it says, when did you first notice? And so you just put the month and the year that it was done. So if you know, tell us when the account was open. You can leave that blank. All right, and then name the company representative. You can leave that. You can leave that blank. So continue. All right. So now it's going to ask you for your personal information. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and be able to do the personal information side of it. So you put your first and last name, your phone number, your address, your email address. You also who you filed this complaint for, yourself, your date of birth, your current mailing address. Make sure it's the one on your driver's license, and you have lived at this address since. Always put more than 2 years, okay? Even if you just got there last week, always put more than 2 years, all right? Because you want them to go off of that one, the credit reporting agencies. And so, has the victim's legal name or address changed since the theft occurred? No. Is the victim a military service member or veteran? I mean, it's up to you if you are or not. I don't know. And just so you know, they're going to want you to do a confirmation text. So if you put your phone number there, you switch to mobile, they're going to do a confirmation text. All right, this is the next question. Do you know anything about the person who stole your identity? You're going to say no. So then it's going to say, have you reviewed a copy of your credit report? You're going to say yes. Were there any fraudulent accounts included on the credit report? You're going to say yes. Then you're going to say none of the above. Is any personal information wrong on the credit report? None of the above. And then when you apply for credit, the lender places an inquiry on your file. Inquiries are listed near the end of the credit report. If you see inquiries that you didn't initiate, please list up to 3 here. If there are more than 3, please list the additional in the personal statement section of the credit report. So now you're going to start listing them right here in the company name. So let me go ahead and grab some. So I'll let y'all see me doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these. So I guess I'm having issues here. Grab this, copy, paste. All right. Let me delete that. So you're going to put, man, it keeps, I don't know why it keeps sliding down. Stop doing that. Paste. And then I'm going to also grab the date. So April 4th, 2023. So you're not going to label it as that. You're going to label it as the date. I wish this thing would stop doing this. Maybe that'll help me make it bigger. There you go. So 4/4/2023. That way we can get rid of that. Sorry guys, I hate this for the recording. It keeps doing this, but that's just the deal right now. And then, so now you're going to add that company. So there you go. So now it's got the name and it also has the date. So you can grab another one. So I'm going to go down the list. All right. So let me grab this one. Same thing, February 28th, 2023. So paste. No, it's not it. BK from there. BK of. It keeps doing that. I hate this. Stop. February is 2/28/23. Okay. Add that company, and then I did that wrong. Didn't I? I did that wrong. Yes. Let me change this. 2023. There we go. Add company, and then we'll do one more. With all the scrolling down, I finally got one. All right, there we go. So we got 3. Have you requested a fraud alert from one of 3 bureaus? You're going to say no, not yet. And law enforcement details, have you contacted local police department? No, not yet. Data breach, you're going to say, I don't know. If they say it's been exposed. Debt collector says debt collector contacted you, you're going to say no. And then click continue. Now, this is very important, all right? This is called your personal statement. Let me zoom in. This is called your personal statement. So what you're going to do is you're going to put this exact verbiage inside of your personal statement. So the screen, unfortunately, is going to keep scrolling down, but it's sorry, it's not in all caps. I have inquiries on my credit report that do not belong to me, period. Please delete these immediately. And then you're going to put a period, and then you're going to start listing them. So we're going to go back to your credit report, and we're going to grab all of these and put them in there. Okay, every single one of them. So just to start off, BK of America, that's what Amer. And then you're going to grab the date, and you're going to put it. So April 4th, 2023. So even if you put it on the other one, still do it. 4/4/23. Well, 2023, sorry. Then you're going to do a comma, and you're going to put the next one. So the same thing, Bank of America, that's 2/28. So BK of Amer 2/28/2023, comma, and so on and so on. So this is only for TransUnion that I'm doing this for. And then you're going to do the same exact process, guys. Just rewatch this video for the Equifax, and then you're going to do it again for Experian. Okay. All right. So as you can see, I have all the inquiries listed, and that right there is my personal statement. So then I'm going to click continue. All right. So once you get here, you're going to have all your information right here. Okay. You're also going to have your first inquiry, your 3 inquiries there that we did, and then also, your personal statement will be on there as well. So now all you got to do is click the box at the bottom and click continue. All right, so it'll prompt you to create an FTC account, which you can do. It's free. It doesn't do anything. And then all you got to do is download the PDF to get your FTC report or identity theft report. And this is one of the items we're going to use. So you're going to need to do this 3 times. Okay, 1 for TransUnion, 1 for Equifax, 1 for Experian. All right, you guys, that's it for this one. So I'll see you on the next one. This is the 3rd thing that you guys need to do. This is one more document that you need. All right, and you got to gather a few of the things which I'll tell you at the end of the video. But you need to essentially create this document right here. So I'm going to include copies of it. So this is a template. All you have to do is literally just click file, and then you're going to click make a copy. All right, because this one you won't be able to write on because it's only for view only. You have to make a copy so you can edit it. Okay, so you're going to need to make a copy for the Equifax one. We'll have one for TransUnion as well, and then we'll have another one for Experian. So what this document is entailing is your legal right to why they are required legally to remove the hard inquiries off of your credit profile. So I don't have enough time necessarily to go into all the legal jargon, but my whole point is this is it, right? So it's all here. You don't have to change anything, add anything to it, take anything from it. All right, just leave it how it is. And the yellow things that I have highlighted in yellow are the only things you need to change or add to. I'm sorry, you need to add obviously your date of birth. Forgot to do that. All right, but when you send this, you want to remove the highlight. The way you do that is take your mouse, click it, and roll over it. And then right here, it says highlight color. Change that to white. Okay, for those who are not computer literate, which is okay. But hey, we're in the 2024 now. About time now. All right, come on with it. All right. So you're going to change it back to white after you edit it. Okay. Same thing here. I might as well. All right. Just go ahead and highlight it because I know some people just aren't good at following directions, but it's okay. It's okay. We're going to get you there. All right. So you're going to take the highlight off once you add these things. Okay. So put your date of birth, put your last 4 of your social. It'll have the address of the actual credit reporting agency for each template. All right. You put today's date. Forgot to mention that too. Let me go ahead and highlight that because I already know. Okay. So you would want to put that in front of the colon. All right, same here and same here. Okay. All right, this is the code of the law. So these are the inquiries. So every time you want to add an inquiry, you can do as many as you want. All right. You're only going to do the inquiries for this particular reporting agency. So if you checked your Equifax report and you had like 2 and your TransUnion had like 20, you don't put your TransUnion hard inquiries on here. You just put your Equifax ones. So you only put the 2 that you have from Equifax. So you're going to obviously, or maybe not so obvious, just for those who need a little help, you're going to remove the highlight. Okay. You're going to remove the highlight from this. All right. Remember, we're going to just drag it and change it from highlight color to white. There we go. All right. So now what you're going to do is you're going to change the inquiry name to whatever your inquiry is. So if it's Bank of America, all right, which is the Bank of America, you're also going to put the date of the inquiry. Please remove it from our credit report. All right. Then all you're going to do is click enter and then put the next number 2. And like this is a template. So you just copy and paste that and just do the next one and so on and so on. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way down. And then at the end, you go to the end, you erase that and put your full name. Okay. And that's it. And then once that template is made, you have one of the final documents. So on side of this document, you need your driver's license. You also need your social security card. Okay. And you need a copy of a utility bill in your name. Once again, you're going to need a driver's license. Okay. And make it a good photocopy, not one where like the edges are cut off, not one where it's so zoomed out that you can't even see what's on the driver's license. It needs to be a nice square image with no clutter behind it. Like make sure the back of when you take the picture of the driver's license and the social security card, what I would recommend is putting it on a black background. So if you got a black piece of paper, a black, I use my wallet. All right. My wallet is black. So I leave my wallet flat and I put my license on top of that. And then I take a picture. Okay. Because you don't want any discrepancies in the information that they see on your driver's license. So you need a picture of your driver's license, picture of your social security card, and a picture of or a PDF of a utility bill with your name on it. Okay. So, and this document, that is all you need. And so on the next step, you're going to see, we're going to take each of these documents, a picture of your driver's license, a picture of your social security card, and a picture of a utility bill. And we're going to upload it to this portal, which I'm going to show you in the next and final step. All right, guys, you're almost there. Keep your head up. All right. You're almost there. You're about to be in the promised land. All right. We'll see you on the next one. So you guys are going to be submitting all those documents that we just created to an agency, government agency called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So I'm going to give you this direct link in this program, but if you're looking for it just by Google, it's the CFPB, consumerfinance.gov. That's the website. So when you go to the consumerfinance.gov, what you're going to be able to do is their job is to protect us as the consumers, right? So you're going to go to submit a complaint, okay, because they govern the credit reporting agencies. And then we're going to scroll down here and we're going to go ahead and click start a new complaint. Okay, so click start a new complaint. So once we click start a new complaint, you can create a Consumer Finance Protection Bureau account. All right. For this one, I already have, some people already have accounts, but if you need to make one, you can go ahead and create one. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and use the account that I already have. All right, so once you're in, you're gonna go to start a new complaint. And now we're gonna go ahead and work on getting this complaint done. So you're gonna do the complaint the same exact way every time. It's just you're gonna change the credit reporting agencies. You're going to change the credit reporting agencies from what's it called? From Experian to Equifax to TransUnion. All right. So we're going to go ahead and walk through this so you can see. All right. So you're going to go, like they have all these options. What's the complaint about? So the one you're going to click is credit reporting or other personal consumer reports. Okay. And then from there, you are going to go ahead and click the type of credit reporting. Okay. Next. So once you have that, I'm going to wait for that to load. It's going to ask you, what type of problem are you having? So this is what you're going to click, improper use of report. Okay. And it's going to say which best describes your problem. So what you're going to do is you're going to click this one, credit inquiries on your report that you don't recognize. Okay. Have you already tried to fix this problem with the company? You're going to say, yes, I have. Did you request information from the company? No. Next. So the next section is going to say what happened. Describe what happened, and we'll send your comments to the companies involved. So this is what you're going to describe. I was looking at my credit report and noticed that there were hard inquiries that are not mine on there. Period. So looking at my credit report and noticed that there were hard inquiries that are not mine on there. And then, yes, you want to publish it with the CFPB. Okay. What would be a fair resolution to these issues? This is the fair resolution. Please remove the inquiries from my credit report immediately. Please remove the inquiries from my credit report immediately. And so now it's going to ask you to attach documents. So guess what documents you're going to attach? You guessed it. You're going to attach your driver's license, a social security number, a card, social security card, a utility bill, as well as the document that you're going to use for this particular credit reporting agency. So for this one, we're using Experian, okay? But I'm going to submit my client's information inside of here. Okay, so have them all four pieces downloaded, and then you're going to submit it into here. And you're only going to pick one credit reporting agency to do this with. So for this one, I'm doing Experian. So I'm only submitting the legal documentation that shows the Experian inquiries, and then obviously driver's license, social security card, and utility bill are going to be the same every time. So this is one of my clients, Veronica. So we have the Experian, legality form, so social, driver's license, and her utility bill, which is her power bill. All right, so now we're going to scroll down. We will forward the attachments to the company. So we're going to go ahead and click next. So now what it's going to ask, what company is this complaint about? All right, so for this one, I am doing Experian. Okay, and so it's going to be Experian. And the one I like to use for Experian is Information Solutions, Inc. Okay, so when you're doing Experian, you can do Experian Information Solutions, Inc. And then we need the information to help the company find you in their system. You're going to choose the last four of your social security number. All right, so that's what you're going to put. So I'm going to tell you right now what to use for Experian, for Equifax and TransUnion, so that way you're not lost when you go back, because you got to do this 3 times. So when you go to do the Equifax one, I'm going to show you which one to use. I just realized I'm going to have to make a separate video for that one. Okay, I'll make a separate video for the other 2 that you're going to use. All right, so once you submit the last 4 of the social, it's going to ask you, do you want to complain to another company? You're going to simply say no. Then it's going to ask you, who are you submitting this complaint for? You're going to click myself. After you click myself, it's going to drop down your information, right? It's on my client's information. And then it's going to ask you demographic. You can just skip all that stuff because it's not needed. All right. And then you just click review. All right. So once you review the complaint, it's going to have everything you basically filed, right? All the stuff, all the things that we uploaded, okay? Last 4 years social, all your personal information, and then, yep, you want to click that. Authorized, the direct consumer reporting agency identified in my complaint to share a determination of the actions taken by the company and the purpose. So basically share it. Information given is true. Yep. And then you're going to just click submit complaint. All right, guys. So now that the complaint is submitted, it'll take you to this screen and message has been sent to you on how to track it, right? So you can always log back in here and see what the status is. But I say wait a week or at the longest 2 weeks, and all your inquiries should be removed. All right, we have some extra precautionary steps that I'll show you in some other videos that you can use, but that's pretty much it. So you're just going to do this for your Experian, you're going to do this for your Equifax, and you're going to do it for your TransUnion. And that is it. All right, I hope this helps. Welcome. You have made it to the end of the hard inquiry removal kit for the majority part that you need to do. Everything else is optional. I'm going to add, but this is it, right? This is how you can clean inquiries. There's so much stuff you can do with this. You can make a business out of it, right? You can sell people out the remove an inquiry for $50, an inquiry, whatever you want to do, but you can do it. All right, I'm out.
Before we continue, if you're realizing this is a lot to handle on your own, here's what I recommend. Click the link below to book a call with our team. On that call, we're going to review your credit profile, use our software to show you exactly how much funding you can qualify for, and even do live pre-approvals right there on the call. You'll see pricing options. We have 3 different tiers depending whether you want to pay upfront on the back end after you get funded or a deposit and then the rest on the back end. This is a discovery call where we'll figure out if we can help you, and if so, exactly how much funding your profile will allow. The link is in the description. Now let's get back to the course.
Now I wanted to set up this video to pre-frame some of the information that we'll be covering in this course. First thing that I always like to add is I want you to be patient with the process while being impatient with yourself. The portions of this course that you can control, and that means submitting your information, going to the banks, making sure you reach out and follow through, and make sure you get your portion of done as fast as possible. The other side of that coin is the side you cannot control, whether it takes days, weeks, or months for the state or the government to reply to you, having accounts vetted in banks or contractors you hire to do their portion of your setup. We recommend you being patient with the portion, but still professionally follow up. So again, be patient with the process while being impatient with yourself. Another portion is that we always want to be transparent with all our clients through this course. There will be some links that we recommend, and a few may have affiliate links attached to them. As many times, those will give bonuses or extra perks to our students going through the material. Feel free to use them or go to the sites directly, or easily choose another company that you feel would benefit you the most. Again, it's great to have you on board and looking forward to hearing about your success and wins along the way. Take care and see you in the upcoming chapters. First thing we need to do is choose a business name. It sounds like it may be an easy step and something you don't have to put a lot of thought into, but it's actually very important. We want to make sure that the name that you're choosing won't attach you to a high-risk industry. You want to avoid names that have the words in the title like real estate, construction, transportation, or rentals, just to name a few. All of these industries are considered high risk. And when seeking funding, you don't want to have an automatic red flag popping up as soon as you start the process. Some simple things that you can do is add your last name or variations of it, like initials to the business name. An example is our business starts with GO, right? G-O. And those are our initials. Another great idea is to add group, ventures, consulting, coaching at the end of your business name so you're not limited to a specific industry. The other great thing behind the word consulting as an example is that it's typically attached to a low-risk business, meaning it typically has low operation costs. You're going to come up with a few options or variations anyways because you'll eventually cross-reference it with your Secretary of State. You'll want to verify that the corporation name you chose isn't already being used in your state. If the name you came up with is being used, you'll simply go with your second or third option or choose a variation of the names as previously suggested. Once you finally settle on a particular company name, you're going to want to go to a domain purchasing website, something like GoDaddy.com as an example. Make sure to purchase the domain immediately. There are companies that are constantly looking out for new organizations being established in hopes of being able to sell you back your ideal domain. It's the little things we don't think of that get us in the end. Let's get after it. See you in the next video. Sometimes we get stuck on choosing that perfect name for our company. So I want to recommend trying out namesnack.com so you don't spend too much time overthinking it. It'll definitely help with some ideas and also show you business name examples you should avoid. Feel free to pause the video and see what I've scrolled through. I'll go ahead and dive into it now. So again, you can plug in a business name generator here. Here's some of the business names just as an example that you actually can kind of pay attention to. High risk business name ideas. So you kind of, the word winnings is an alert there. Construction, gambling, obviously, aware, mining. These are kind of just higher risk when you really think about it at the end of the day, right? Guns, traders, pawn shop. Even though it says the word honest there, it's still a pawn shop at the end of the day, right? So some things to really kind of just think about as you're kind of going through it. So feel free to kind of just play around with this website. A link of it will be added at the bottom as well. So keep that in mind. But at the end of the day, high-risk businesses typically struggle with financing and insurance due to the high risk associated with their businesses, including health, safety, and the biggest one, financial risks. That's the one we want to make sure we're incredibly mindful of. A good business name can help your company seem more risk averse. You also want to make sure that the name you're choosing isn't trademarked. Now, namesnack.com is also integrated with GoDaddy, which makes life a lot easier. Have fun with it, and it helps in having you find your perfect name for your LLC. Take care. I'm going to show you how to check if your LLC's name is available in your state. You'll want to access your state's Secretary of State website, or SOS. I'll display California's SOS website as an example. Check it out. So on here, all you're really going to do is simply just go to search, right at the top there. You'll plug in the name, and let's just plug in something here. Just as a quick example, I'll do something like ABC Realty, right? So different options come up on here. Play around with it, right? Whatever your name is, you can simply search it. Any state's website should have that information readily available. But that's all you can do. Go to the SOS website, the Secretary of State website, search for it, and just go from there. What you really want to look for is to make sure that the name that you're looking for isn't copywritten or attached to a trademark. Let's make sure to avoid any liabilities when choosing your company's name, right? That's the real thing you want to check out. Business email. When it comes to your email address, you want to make sure we think of the end user, especially from the bank's perspective. What we don't want to be using is something like yourlastname@gmail.com, right? Your business name @gmail.com. We want to make sure that we keep it looking professional. So you want to use things like info@yourbusiness.com, right? Support@yourbusiness.com. We want to make sure that it looks legit when applying at the bank. This will add a level of professionalism to your application. When you use the negative forms of email accounts, it will automatically create a red flag at banks. Remember, we want to make sure that we eliminate red flags completely. Best and easiest places to set up your email accounts, typically wherever you set up your domains. Really simple, right? Which is exactly why I like using GoDaddy.com. I've mentioned them a few times. Their platforms just tend to communicate with other platforms very easily, which makes my life easier, my business partner's life easier. Find something that speaks to you on that level. And again, it's all about ease. You want to make sure that things integrate correctly and smoothly for you when you're connecting it maybe with your CRM down the road or other people that are going to be build out portions of your website possibly. That's why I recommend those things. But be mindful of it. Set up that domain and set up that email address, that business email address. Keep that in mind, everybody. When it comes to your business address, you have a few options. You can always use your home. You can use a business address like a mailbox company, something similar to a UPS store, or you can find a virtual office that has a true office front. Now, your home is going to be the least expensive. Very simple. The UPS type of store or a Staples store will have a cost associated with that. But if searched, people will know they're not going to find you at that location ever. It's simply a mailbox. Compared to a virtual office, when it's searched from the street view, it very well could be your real office, adding a huge layer of professionalism to your account and your application when you're seeking for funding, but will have the highest cost associated to it. By comparison to the other two options, right? The easiest way to look this up if you opt for a virtual office is to simply Google search virtual offices in my area, right? Really easy. You can also use sites like ipostal1.com, depending on that city that you're out of. Just make sure that when you do a search of the location that it's not coming up as a storefront or a mailbox company, not like something like an Annex or those are really common ones. Staples are all over the place and they rent out mailboxes in that sense. Make sure it's something that when you, again, Google search the street view, do your own due diligence on the front end so you're not doing double work on the back end, that it's an actual business location or it looks like an office, a corporate office. And I'll give you some examples of it here in the next video. So as promised, I'm going to go through ipostal1.com just to give you an example of what it looks like. So I'm sharing my screen already here. So you literally will come to the website. You can plug in locations. You can play around with the site, view plans, just kind of how it works. But overall, it'd be a virtual business address that you're going to be clicking into if you decide to go this route. Before that, though, you can check out locations. So I already plugged one in here just to kind of give you an example of one. California, I plugged in Irvine as the city. 3 locations popped up. If you were to search these other two just on Google, just do the street view of it, you would notice that they're mailboxes or it's a Staples location. You don't want to do those. Avoid those completely, right? It's a complete red flag. Now, if you actually search this one, 2372 Morse, just as an example, it's got a picture of it as well, which is great. But you can come over to it, and if you click on Street View, just as an example, it's like, okay, well, it looks like some type of business. It's right. There isn't like no mini malls in the area or anything like that. It's all industrial around here, and you can kind of scroll around, just go to the front of it, and this looks like an actual business. This is something that if somebody just really quick did a street view of it, would be like, okay, there's a possibility of the person that gave me this address possibly being located at this business. That adds a level of professionalism, and that's exactly what you want to be looking for. Now, I will say it again. It's going to be a little bit more as far as costs on a monthly basis. If you're newer, you haven't kicked off that business yet, go ahead and use your home address. The other reason I don't really like using a home address is because certain things are public record. I don't like those things out there. I don't like my personal home information, where my family sleeps at night, is kind of out in the public just because people are people. So keep that in mind as well if you ever opt in for the home address. I'd probably say if that's the example, I'd probably rather you use that UPS store, that Staples store, rather than your home address. But home is going to be the thing that really there's no cost associated to it, right? This is going to be probably the most costly outside of having a real physical office, which nowadays you really don't need to have for the most part unless your business deems it necessary. All right. Thanks so much. Hope that helps, and I'll see you in the next chapter. This step will be going over your business phone number and the importance of it. Personal phone numbers are always an option. However, you have to remember what the goal is here and making sure that you can maximize your efforts to get the best outcome. That's where we strongly recommend having a business phone number, so you keep things separate. Now, the nice part about that is that it can be done with a small to no cost, right? There's plenty of options out there. You have things like Google Voice, Freedom Voice. I personally have Uma up that I'm sharing on screen here, just to name a few. Some may have costs associated with them, but it really depends on your level of professionalism that you're seeking. There are also some benefits to turning your current phone service into a business account or adding a business line to your current account. Without committing to it, at the very minimum, what I want you guys to do is I want you to research what your current providers offer, allowing yourself to have options. What we personally did is we added a number, our phone number that we got, we actually had access to it directly from our CRM, right? The CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management Tool. That's what it really is, basically. But the CRM that we use is Go High Level. We track all of our clients, our business. It's a streamlined process for us to have everything in one place. So remember, a designated business number is going to give you more credibility in front of the banks that you're going to be seeking funding from. Another little bonus here is that you want to finalize your phone number and make sure that you get it authorized if possible. Add it to the 411 directory. So kind of old school 411 here. I added a couple links below for you guys to go ahead and play around with, but that's what you ultimately want to do. You want to make sure that you get everything verified, make sure everything is set up properly, and have that business line set up. Worst case scenario, do a Google Voice. Yeah, there's some intros to it that are a little bit kind of annoying, and there's a little bit of a lag time there, but it's free. It's simple, and you can get off the ground with it. And again, it's a designated number, and worst case scenario, you could always change it later as your business grows and you have more funds to justify those spends. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Next step we'll be talking about is your business's website. And this is an area that will dramatically help you with your funding potential. The beautiful thing is that you don't have to have some complex website with all these moving parts and buttons that take you to just different pages. It could be a simple landing page. You ultimately just want to make sure that it's something where the banks or whoever's researching you can simply scroll through what your services are, what you're offering, and get a feel for the professionalism. They see the email addresses on there that we talked about in previous sections, the phone number that we just spoke about in the last section, and make sure that it's a legit business. Again, do everything possible to increase your potential for funding at its maximum levels. We aren't that tech savvy. This is an area where plenty of people get stuck because they aren't tech savvy either. So what we did is simply hired somebody from Fiverr, and they literally knocked it out for us in 24 hours. That could be an option. It cost us approximately $100, and it included a year's worth of hosting. If you feel like you can take it on without slowing you down, we added a few links at the bottom of this page for you to click through and see if you have any options that will benefit you from there. Things like, tailorbrands.com or shopify.com, leadpages.com, clickfunnels.com. There's quite a few on there that you can actually just, again, see if any of them call your attention. If it's something that you feel is simple for you to do, go for it. Have at it. If you feel like you're just stumbling and it's day after day and days turn into weeks, just pay somebody. Go on to Fiverr. There's plenty of people that are looking for business. Give it a try. That's what we did. We found somebody. And again, just a simple landing page will do. All right. Give it a try, and we'll see you in the next section. Take care. Before I dive into this section, I want to make sure that you all know that we're all about keeping as much money in our pocket as possible, as long as it doesn't sacrifice quality or expose us to unnecessary liabilities. With that said, when people typically want to incorporate themselves or create an entity, most people will typically gravitate towards what's the cheapest and the fastest so you can start making money as soon as possible. I get it. Makes total sense. And when you're researching things, the first thing that comes to mind is becoming a sole proprietor or creating a sole prop. Tons of that stuff on the internet. It's all over the place, right? It's true. It's quick. It's inexpensive. But what happens is that you eliminate all of the safeguards that come with having an LLC or being incorporated. You want to make sure that you're separating yourself and your assets as much as possible from any of the potential downfalls that can come from having a business. That's where a corporation / LLC comes into play. In the next section, we'll be talking about how to set up an LLC in any state and how to streamline the process. I'll give you some tips that you can take advantage of there. I strongly recommend you take them, but to each his own. Take care and see you in the next one. We're going to talk about how to open your LLC in any state. If you're somebody who likes to take things on and do things themselves, you'll want to go to the Secretary of State website. That's exactly where you're going to be filing. So I have it up here for California. I'm sharing the screen already. Again, it's that SOS website we talked about in the past. To find it, you can also simply search for your state name, add Secretary of State, and it'll take you directly to the homepage. From there, you'll click on Start a Business. Here, it obviously says Register a Business, but some variation of that is basically what you're looking for. It'll ask for some simple information, and you just plug in your personal information from there. After that, it's fairly straightforward, but it can be a little bit of a lengthy process. One of the red flags here, I want to put it for people, is that some of us forget to fill out a section, incorrectly fill out a section, possibly forget to sign something or initial something. It's our first time doing this, so we might be just stumbling forward, right? And a lot of the states out there work via snail mail. What does that mean? It means that they mail you back a response if something's incorrect on it. Then you have to correct it and mail it back to them. And this back and forth begins until it's corrected, and it can add weeks, if not months, to the process. So this is an area where we would recommend a company that specializes in getting businesses up and running. The two that we would recommend that we've previously used many, many times are inkfile.com and mycorporation.com. And I'll share those on my screen now just to give you an idea of what it looks like, okay? So Inkfile is very straightforward. You just plug and start your business. It's going to take you right over here. And the one that you're going to want to go with is Silver. Do a little bit of research there, right? Look into it. Figure out exactly why. What are the benefits? Why is this one $200 more? Do I really need all of these things that are kind of called out on here? Probably not. You honestly probably don't. And I'm going to talk about one of them in a second here, though. So just bear with me on that one. And again, my corporation is fairly similar as well. You set up an LLC and get incorporated in any of the 50 states. You're pretty much ready to go. Same thing, LLC, California. You're going to hit Get Started, and it's going to take you directly to opting in for an option there. And what you're going to want to do is, in this example, we would recommend just go with the basic. Go with the basic. There's one section, though, that kind of calls out of here is Registered Agent of Service, auto renew, right? Hey, David, do I need that? I've had people talk to me about getting a registered agent. That's not for us to say. That's something that you need to figure out for yourself. When you're brand new in the business, if you're not really some lawsuit type of business where people are going to be coming after you, it might be overkill, honestly. Maybe save the $100 a year. But there's always that possibility. It can absolutely happen. You want to make sure that you're protected. And again, remember, keep liabilities down. You are getting incorporated. You're starting a business. You're working with the public more than likely. Keep those things in mind. When we first started off, we didn't have a registered agent. We just didn't. It wasn't something that we felt that was a necessity. As we grew, we absolutely added it on because this is the reality. Most of you are going to have some mailbox that you're using as your business address, or maybe that virtual office that we talked about. And you're going to go over there and pick up that mail every month or every 2 months. You're not going to be going over there every day to pick up mail. You possibly can get some piece of mail that is incredibly time sensitive, and you want to make sure that you get somebody calling you up and letting you know, hey, this is very important. You need to come pick this up. This affects your business. We got to take care of it immediately. In those examples, you want somebody that's there, a registered agent of service. One last bit of advice is that if you're going to do it yourself or leverage a company, make sure that it says LLC. Don't spell out limited liability company, right? Don't spell that stuff out. You don't want it to say L.L.C. Again, you want to make sure that it's simple and just says LLC. Spelling out with lengthen, it's going to lengthen all of your documents, from your checks to all of your agreements in the future, right? Imagine if you already have this long company name, and then on top of that you had limited liability company. It's going to be dizzy. You're going to drive yourself crazy. So do yourself the favor, keep it simple, and leverage where you can. This is an area where I strongly recommend leveraging. Everybody at our firm says leverage these companies, and if these don't suit you, find one that does. But definitely don't waste too much time here, because that back and forth can just be dizzying. All right? Take care. See you in the next one. Congratulations. You now have an existing LLC. And you want to make a change to something, whether it be the address or a phone number or a simple update. What you need to do is go to the Secretary of State's website. Again, SOS. Look up your business and access the Statement of Information forms. I'll give you an example of what that looks like. So I already have it up on file here. So some of you will be lucky and will be able to access it online and make quick adjustments via a portal that you would have access to. And a lot of you will have to do it via mail, adding weeks, if not months, to a simple process. This is where we don't want to be spending a ton of time doing things that you may not be good at. And we want to recommend leveraging a company like the ones I mentioned in the past. things like, or companies like inkfile.com or mycorporation.com, or any company you opted to use, especially if they originally helped you set things up. A few bucks will add tremendous value and time back to your life, but I'll make sure to add those links at the bottom of this page for you to click through and just kind of figure out if it's something for you. But as kind of stated here, California, really simple one that I have on here, file a statement of information. It's the exact same place. What you're going to ultimately want to do is you're going to want to set yourself up. So let's just go anywhere, like say ABC Realty, right? Just plug something in here. What it's going to ultimately do is going to kick you back. We'll just go to this top one here. See if it, so great example of it. Let me move my image out of the way here. Request certificate or request access. If your state has something like this, great, take advantage of it. Create a login for it, because you can go in there and make tweaks to it whenever you need to make tweaks to it. Take care of the information, make sure everything is up to date. It's a great tool to use if your state offers it. If it doesn't, sorry, I can't really help you out in that world, but you have to do obviously the snail mail. Again, the best thing to do, if it's something simple, you have those things, leverage the previous companies that you use. If not, spend the time in getting good at this information, because this is your business. So keep those things in mind. Hope that helps, and we'll see you in the next section. It's now time to give your company its version of a social security number. And that number is called your EIN or your employer ID number. This is an area that I'd recommend doing contrary to previous recommendations, because it's fairly simple setup. You can pay some of the previous companies that we mentioned anywhere from $70 to $200 to set up your EIN, but you can honestly do it in about 10 minutes. You simply have to add your personal information that you already know about yourself and your business. And I'm actually literally sharing my screen right now so you guys can get a feel for it. But all you're going to do is really just go to irs.gov. irs.gov, you're going to click on apply for your EIN, and it's that simple. You're going to scroll down from here, apply online now. There is one catch. The one catch is setting up your EIN via the irs.gov website. And that catch is that you must do it Monday through Friday. It has to also be done during normal business hours. They just shut it down for some reason at some point. It's done. I don't know why they do that, to be honest with you, because it's just digital. It's all online. There's somebody, I'm sure, in the back office that's kind of plugging away, doing whatever it is that they're doing. But it has to be done Monday through Friday during normal business hours. You can pay approximately a $25 fee to get an expedited email sent to you. So you can literally get up from your computer, print out that form, take the documents that you already have regarding your LLC with your statement of information, and walk directly over to a bank, set up your accounts that same day. Also want to let you know that there are some circumstances where it can get postponed due to verification. We're talking about postponing is your EIN. Sometimes this happens if your business name is similar to a previous name in the same state. And they want to verify to make sure that there wasn't any type of conflict or any relationships to that other business. In those rare examples, it can take roughly about 10 business days to receive your EIN, but they typically will send it to you via email and also a mail copy. So you'll get a physical copy in the mail. So keep those things in mind. The EIN, again, is very simple. I will tell you, save the $70 to $200, plug in your information. You already know everything about yourself. You have your EIN. You have your corporate information, your personal information. Just type it in. You're literally paying somebody to just type for you. You'll knock it out in probably about 10 minutes. All right, take care. See you in the next one. NAICS, or North American Industry Classification System, along with SIC, or Standard Industrial Classification Code. What are they? And is it important? Yes, incredibly important. So listen up. Your NAICS code has its own 6-digit coding system. This code classifies business establishments for the purpose of collecting, analyzing, and publishing statistical data related to the U.S. economy. It also defines establishments based on the activities in which they are primarily engaged in. Now, your SIC code, SIC number, is part of a business classification system. So the SIC code is a 4-digit numerical code that's assigned by the U.S. government to businesses to make it easier for them to identify the primary activity of your business. What does all that mean? In short, the powers that be want to know what type of business you have and is it high risk or low risk. There are certain codes that are considered high risk. And if you're considered a high risk business, funding will be difficult and possibly grounds for decline. The amounts that you'll get approved for will be massively reduced, again, because it's high risk. Think about it this way. Imagine if you personally don't have the best credit. You're also considered high risk. This is similar to the code that you'll choose. Now, let us give you a hack here. Let's say you do have a real estate company. And if you haven't learned by now, but real estate amongst many industries is considered high risk. What you can do is classify your business as a consulting company. Consulting is considered low risk. A big part of what you do in real estate, as an example, is literally consulting. There's a form of coaching that goes on there. So go ahead and consider your business a consulting firm. Regardless of what it's called, there will be a list of restricted industries below. Those industry codes are grounds for automatic declines that I want to make sure that you all go through, along with some other links to help you understand how the NAICS and SIC code system works. Get educated in this field just a little bit. You don't have to be an expert at it, but just kind of have a bare understanding of it. It'd be really, really good because, again, what are you doing all this for? Keep that in mind, and we'll see you in the next chapter. Thanks. How do you change your NAICS? Some of you may be thinking, I already set up my bank accounts, and I don't even know what code I chose. So how do you change your NAICS or your SIC codes? It's incredibly simple. All you do is call your bank and give them the updated code. That's it. After that, you'll want to go into your Duns and Bradstreet profile, so your DNB, right? Update it there along with your NAV. You're going to want to go into nav.com, update your profile, and update it there across the board, just to make sure that everything is in unison and everything's on the same page. But the most important place is going to be updating it at your bank. And you want to do that with a simple phone call or a quick 5-minute visit. It's probably one of the easiest things you can ultimately do, especially once you have the correct code, if you've already done it, right? Call them up. Hey, I got my new code. This is actually where I'm classifying my business as now. We shifted or we pivoted in our business. They'll go ahead and make the change for you. It's very simple, very straightforward. Set yourself up for success. That's what we're here for. Take care. See you in the next one. Dun and Bradstreet. Let's talk about an incredibly important number that you're going to want to set up that most business owners never take advantage of. And that's your Dun and Bradstreet number, or your DNB number, or your Duns number. Different names, all the same thing. This is the portion of the business that differs from personal life. We've already set up your EIN, and EIN communicates with the IRS. Your Duns is an additional layer that communicates with the business bureaus that exist, similar to Experian, TransUnion, Equifax bureaus that most of you are familiar with on a personal level. There is also different bureaus that exist on the business level. We want to get a Duns number. That's something that you're going to want to do right now. And the best part about it is that there's no cost to it. It takes roughly about 10 business days for you to receive your number, and they may call you to verify some of the information on your application, which is absolutely normal. But as soon as you have your number, you have literally separated yourself from the majority of business owners in the United States. You added another level of professionalism to your business, so great job. I'm sharing my screen already. I'm going to show you how simple it is to literally go there. DNB.com, which is right on here, right, for Dun & Bradstreet. You're just going to hover over Duns number, go to get a Duns number. Fairly simple, very straightforward. Some instructions that you're going to want to read through here. Just scroll down. I always tell people, when in doubt, read. The information is usually right in front of us. Just go ahead and just make sure you have this information. Pretty simple. At the bottom, you're going to be a US-based business. Plug in your zip code, your business name, and simply follow the prompts. It's going to create a login for you, all that good stuff, and just fill out the information. It's very self-explanatory. You should already have all of this information in your queue, ready to go and ready to plug it in. All right. Great job setting this up, and we'll see you in the next one. Business Pro Forma. This one's a bit of tough loving, just so you know. So with that said, we've worked with thousands of business owners, and one of our biggest takeaways is that most business owners are incredible at the actions of their business. They know how to do their business, but they lack how to be structured in their business and how to really take their business in the direction they ultimately want to go in, because they become ultra focused on the simple day-to-day tasks. It's something most, if not all of us, are guilty of, especially when we start a brand new business, because we're the ones wearing all of the hats. We have to do all of the tasks, do everything that it takes to get this thing off of the ground. So our strong recommendation, whether you're a brand new business owner or a seasoned veteran in your space, is get organized today. If you don't make the time to do it while you're small, you won't have the time to do it when you're a large company. We'll give you some examples of things that you should ultimately have in place sooner rather than later. And there's one at the end here that we want to make sure you do, honestly, probably immediately. But do you have an agreement? An operating agreement? Do you have a service agreement in place, or maybe a mutual non-disclosure agreement? Do you have any independent contractor agreements in place? Or do you even have the file ready to go just in the event that you need one? And this is the one that everybody should have. You should revisit it every single year. We typically revisit ours around October. We start planning in September, October for the following year, right? At least 3 months before it kicks off, kind of that last quarter of the year, to make sure that we get things going for the following year. Do you have a business plan? A business plan is something that every single company should have. What's our goals? What direction are we going in? Things that you should be talking about, even if the conversation's with yourself, right? Now, what are you doing today to make sure that you're still in business tomorrow? And what's your strategy for tomorrow when you ultimately exit your business? Because it will happen. You're going to exit your business, right? Whether that's by your choice or because your time on this planet is done. Think about that. We're going to add a few links down below to a few sites where you can access documents, along with some templates you can feel free to use. Make sure you're running your business and that it's not running you. We hope you genuinely appreciate this information. Again, it can come off as a little bit of tough loving, but we want to make sure that you stay in business. There are too many people, and I'm sure you know of plenty, and we may even be speaking to you in the past with previous experiences. Most businesses fail their first year, and it's just because they lack vision. They forget to just simply write it down and know what direction they're going in, and making sure everybody around them is in unison and going in the same direction. Hope you appreciate that. We'll see you in the next video. So, you misplaced your articles of organization. We've had a few people actually reach out to us and say, hey, I don't know what I did with my articles of organization. I have no idea what happened to them. So we decided to make this video and just add it to the course here. But your articles of organization should have been mailed to you with all of your documents at the time of filing your company. If you happen to misplace them and you have portal access to your Secretary of State's website, again, you're going to be doing a lot of information or a lot of stuff on that SOS website. You can always download a new copy there. You can always go back and leverage the original company you set it up with if you choose to ultimately take that route. Or simply search. Search for your state's name along with the words Article of Organization Request. From there, it can give you a form you need to mail in if that's what your state requires, or a phone number you can call with further directions. Every state is different in this example. And as a closing note, make sure to keep all of your documents in one place and in a safe place. If you have a safe at home or at your business, put them in there. But everybody, put everything together. Keep it all together. Make sure that it's safe. You can access things fairly quickly, especially when you're starting off your business. You're opening up new accounts. You're going to need to access these documents all of the time. Make sure you know where they're at. Keep yourself sane. So there's a lot of moving parts to have in a business. This is going to help. All right. See you in the next video. Welcome back. One of the reasons we tend to be tough on business owners with them being organized is because the last thing you want is something silly to shut your business down. And a very common example, you'd be blown away at how common it is, but a common example of it is not paying your annual corp or LLC fees to your state. If you're doing business in their state, they want their cut. It's that simple. You want to make sure that it's paid every single year. We typically will consult our business owners and tell them to pay it once they file their taxes through their tax professional of choice. Now, it's out of sight, it's out of mind, and it's done with. Make sure you do it at that point. That's our strong recommendation. If you didn't do it then, you can always log on to your state's franchise tax board. I'm sharing the screen here for California just as an example, and simply pay it on their website. Or you may have to mail in the payments if your state is not set up to do it digitally. But again, the best time to do it is when you file your taxes every single year, which you should be doing every single year. Remember, you do not want your state or the government chasing after you. Those will create huge red flags with those agencies. Let me show you how simple it can literally be to just pay it, right? So ftb.ca.gov, right? This is California's franchise tax board. Again, you just want their cut. That's all it is. Just hover over pay. You're going to go down. As an example, you just click a bank account, and that's all you do. Use WebPay for your business. Probably the best thing to do here is create an actual login. So my FTB account is an example here. Create your own login. You can make sure that it's up to date, access it, make any payments that you need to pay. Make sure that your business checking accounts. Some of you may have banked with certain banks for years or possibly decades, and I'm sure you could very well love those banks. But remember, the whole point of this course is to maximize your access to funds, so we're going to recommend the banks that we've discovered to be the most beneficial for business owners. Full disclosure, there's a chance that you may not like some of these banks, but removing emotion, these are the banks that offer the best programs surrounding what this course covers. A link of this will be added at the bottom just as a high-level overview. Now, the traditional banks we recommend setting up accounts with and establishing relationships with are Chase, Bank of America, and US Bank. You can choose one of those banks or all three of them. We'd also recommend eventually setting up some online banks. The two that we recommend are American Express and Bluevine. American Express offers amazing perks, points, and benefits on their credit cards to their clients, and Bluevine has some great features with their cashback offers on some of their accounts. Now you're working with some variety. You can mix things up. And at the end of the day, which we'll talk about, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. And it's great to establish multiple relationships because you never know what the future brings, right? So just our 2 cents on that. Take advantage of that. We'll see you in the last video here shortly. Best checking account. Now, which one to choose? Again, you may have banked with your bank for 20 plus years, and you can keep those accounts. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we're going to make one recommendation, we want you to set up accounts at Chase. They offer the best formulas and best bang for the buck when it comes to business owners and business accounts. If you already have accounts at Chase, make sure you still go in and set up business accounts. You never want to commingle funds, which means you're keeping your personal money in your personal accounts and your business money in your business accounts. Feel free to set up multiple accounts there if you want. Maybe one for operations and one for taxes. And down the road, you can set up accounts at other banks as well. Like we mentioned in the previous video, Bank of America, US Bank, and of course, those online banks like American Express or Bluevine, as we've discussed. Those have been the most beneficial for business owners and the direction this course ultimately goes in. So looking forward to having you in the next courses, but great job so far. Hopefully you knocked out everything you were supposed to so far, and chat soon. Take care.
Welcome back. So in this module, we're going to cover business credit. So true business credit is built typically over 1 to 3 years. By building business credit, you would be able to apply for things like EIN only business credit cards, vehicles, and be able to purchase things for your business with just your business without having to be the personal guarantor on those loans or credit cards. Now, because it does take roughly 1 to 3 years to do this, it's always good to start by being the personal guarantor when applying for things like the 0% interest business credit cards. Now, this may not be something that you may want to do at first, and you may want to just start off with EIN only credit cards. While you can do that, those are not the best cards to start with. They don't have the best rates and they don't have the best features with them. For example, two of the cards that you would be able to start with have a net 30 and a net 60 attached to them, which would mean you would need to pay them off every single month or every 2 months. So, and there are some that you can get without fully being, without having a net 30 or a net 60 or having full business credit yet. However, they're not going to have the same 0% benefits that you would, which is why you're here. So to start off, you're going to want to be the PG, which is personal guarantor, which you would use your social security number for to be the guarantor for those cards. Now, if there's anything wrong with your personal credit, you need to get some hard inquiries removed. You need to get maybe a collection deleted. We could typically get this done within a month or two. So that way you don't have to worry. We can still get you approved for the 0% interest cards. So keep in mind, sometimes people don't need this. Sometimes they're not planning to build a huge, massive organization where they need to purchase, vehicles, or they need to purchase a bunch of stuff under their business. They just need the 0% interest cards. Sometimes, fix and flip companies or e-commerce companies, or the list goes on of different types of companies that could truly benefit from just having the 0% cards. Then building up your personal business credit may not even matter to you. On the other hand, if you are starting something where you do need to have, business credit, purchase fleets of vehicles or trucks or, anything else like that, then there are going to be ways, which we will cover in the future modules, on how you can build up your personal business score. So stay tuned for the rest. Talk to you soon. So now we're going to touch on a few benefits of having business credit and what you can use it for. So one of the biggest ones is being able to qualify for financing through the business without having to use your personal side. So having the ability to do that, they just go off of the EIN and your current business accounting and track record. This can completely separate you eventually from the personal side to the business side. So number two is going to be cheaper insurance policies. So most businesses will need to have some sort of insurance, especially if you're in like the real estate development business or any type of, fix and flip, Turo, anything else that's going to have some sort of a product or a project that needs to be insured or even bonded. The better your business credit is, the lower your insurance rates are going to be. And they can get really high, especially in the real estate industry, fix and flip, or, development, especially if you're doing any kind of trucking, transportation. Building up your business credit score over time will help to drive down those costs of insurance. Next is going to actually have cleaner books. Right now you have to have your personal side and your business side, and then try to decipher and discern between what goes where and how to do that, which again, your accountant should be doing that, but just having business credit completely standing alone and everything running through the business, then you're going to have much cleaner books in the long run, which just makes everything and makes your whole life in business easier when it does come to tax season and for your monthly accounting and bookkeeping. And lastly, one of the biggest things too, if you're trying to build a business to sell it eventually, you're going to want to have built up a good business score. You're going to want to have a good, clean track record. If you have everything on your personal side commingled and mixed in and transferred money here and pulled money out there, and I'm using this card, it's my personal card, but I'm buying business stuff and then I'm trying to write it off, and you want to take all of that and then present it to a potential buyer, how's that going to look? It's going to look like they're buying a mess, and they're just not going to want it. So as early and as quick as you can, which the 0% cards will count too, being able to start building your business credit, which again, we're going to go into deeper in further modules, it's going to help you in the long run. Some people have no intention of building a business that you can sell. Maybe you're just a trader, or you want some e-commerce something, and you don't really plan to sell it, then, building up that type of business credit isn't really going to help you because you're not planning to sell. So keep these in mind as things that you can do, what you could benefit from by having better business credit, especially getting qualified for those commercial loans too that are going to come up down the road. So now we're going to cover a few of the basic terms that you're going to find in business finance. One of those is going to be trade lines. So as you're looking at your business profile, your business credit report, every type of an account that you're going to have is going to be a trade line. Okay, so things like your business credit cards or vehicles or different type of vendor accounts, these will all report as trade lines. And the idea is to actually have multiple trade lines. This actually goes the same for your personal credit as well. Not having just one thing, just one credit card or just one vehicle, and that's all that you have. We may think that we're being financially responsible, which that can be. However, lenders want to see multiple trade lines on your account, multiple accounts that you're managing well, that have low overall debt, that don't have missed payments, that everything is green with those accounts, and you're managing multiple. So as you're building up your business credit, you want to be able to build multiple trade lines and make sure that you're taking care of those and not missing payments, not maxing out your cards, not being late on any type of net 30 accounts or any type of payment accounts. You want to make sure you're staying on time and staying in the green, and this is going to boost up your business credit score tremendously. Another term is going to be PG, so personal guarantor. So basically all this is that you are the co-signer for your business. Kind of like on the personal side, if you're going to go co-sign for someone to get a car, you are the co-signer for your business. And this is done until you build up a strong business credit score. Next is going to be the net accounts. So you're going to find net 30, net 60, net 90 accounts. All this is saying is that whichever vendor you're working with, you can order parts, order supplies, whatever it is that you need to order, and that you have 30 days to pay that back, 60 or 90. The reason that companies do this is it gives you more time to hold on to your capital and more time to sell whatever it is, that item that you are getting from them, to recoup your capital before making those payments. So it makes it really easy and very valuable for businesses to scale up having net 30, 60, and 90 accounts. So that's definitely a major important thing that you need to do to boost your business credit, is find vendors that you can sign up with to get net 30, 60, and 90 accounts. And you can even do this with EIN only business credit cards that will report as a net 30, 60 or 90 account, even though you're not ordering any parts or you're not ordering any, anything that you might need. Those cards will report the same way as a vendor type net 30 or net 60 account. So look into some of those. Next are going to be those vendor tiers. So this goes hand in hand with those net 30, 60, 90 accounts. Is you're going to have different tiers, and you want to get yourself up to a level 4. So tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're going to start off with, a net 30 account and you're going to be in tier 1. So as you are paying that back and using it and on time, not missing anything, 2-3 months down the road, they'll bump you up to tier 2. Then you can do the same thing, and then you can qualify for different vendors, different types of accounts from there, and rinse and repeat and do the same thing all the way till you get to tier 4. Benefit of being at tier 4 is you're going to be able to qualify for better accounts, larger limits, because you have a higher trust factor with vendors. So to build that up is to start using it, to start getting yourself into any of these types of net 30, 60, 90 accounts with vendors, or even using the EIN only credit cards that you do have to pay back every 30 or 60 days. This helps to boost up your tiers too. Next is going to be installment accounts. So installment accounts are just going to be fixed amounts that are going to be paid over a time that you're going to be making payments back to. And lastly is going to be a line of credit. So line of credit, you're going to need to build up a good business credit score to qualify for this, but it's just going to be a fixed amount that you pay back until that is done. And obviously the business credit cards. So this is, in my opinion, one of the best things that you can do, because you have all the introductory rates for 12 to 18 months of 0%. So you can really capitalize on the 0% cards to allow yourself to grow. But even though 0% is the best, you need to take advantage of all these different trade lines to boost your business credit score, which again could take 1 to 3 years to have that top tier business credit score. So let's talk about the different tiers. So I already covered tiers 1, 2, 3, and 4, but I wanted to take a second just to dive in a little bit more so you can see how these can benefit you and how to move up through them. So tiers 1 and 2 are going to be relatively simple to get through and relatively simple to build up, those tier levels. The worst part about tier 1 is, instead of maybe getting a net 30 account, you may have to start off with a net 15 account. So you're just paying it back a little bit sooner. However, you can move through tier 1 up to tier 2 pretty quickly, maybe 2 or 3 months. Now, tier 2 is going to be where you can start getting, no PG business credit cards. One of my biggest recommendations in tier 2 is to even get company gas cards. People never really think about this too much unless you're in the transportation industry or you have a fleet of trucks for your business. But even if you don't, even if you're just an e-commerce business, get yourself a business gas card, because this can boost up your business credit score pretty quickly, moving you up through those tiers. You may even be able to get one at a tier 1. You just may have to pay it off a little bit sooner. Okay, so remember to look into like a Shell card or a Chevron card to build yourself up from, tier 1 strong profile through tier 2. And again, in tier 2, you could start getting some of those no PG, business credit cards, or even some of those store cards like a Target card or something like that. Now you may be wondering, how can you track your business credit score? So you're going to want to write this down and hop onto nav.com. Create yourself an account so that way you can monitor your business credit, and this will actually help you to build up your business credit. This is going to work like Identity IQ for the personal side, but it's going to be for the business. So remember, nav.com. Okay. Now, tier 3 and 4 can be a little bit more difficult, and it may not benefit everybody, but just depending on the type of business that you're in, it could benefit you. So in tier 3 is when you're going to be able to apply for different business loans, some more of those commercial loans. So depending on your type of business, is this going to be something for you? Maybe, maybe not, but it could still benefit you later on down the road if you need to get any type of, commercial business loan or business lending. Tier 4 is going to be more for when you want to step into the realm of angel investors or other types of, fund investors who are going to invest into your type of business. So they're going to want to see you at that tier 4, as well as they're going to ask for a full pro forma business plan, and a lot more does come with that to get into tier 4. But remember, one of the best things you can do, business gas cards to help build yourself up, and get an account with nav.com so you can start tracking where you're at with your personal business credit. So just like your personal credit score, your business credit score is tracked by 3 bureaus. Those are Dun & Bradstreet's, Equifax Business, and Experian Business. So the same thing that happens on your personal credit score is happening on your business side. So they're tracking on-time payments. They're looking at public records, looking for any kind of liens or judgments against you on your business side. So you're going to want to make sure that you're running a clean business, running a good business, because you're building up your business credit score, giving you the opportunity to not only move through those tiers, but qualify for the best loans, the best rates, the best insurance rates, all on your business side. So don't think that just because it's a business, nothing's happening. You are building up a business credit score as if you would to build up your personal credit score. So one of the oldest business credit bureaus is going to be Dun & Bradstreet, or D&B for short. So you can get a free DUNS number right from their website, which I highly recommend starting right away if you don't have one already, to start building and tracking your business credit. Anytime that you want to apply for any type of EIN only business credit, loans, commercial loans, anything, you're going to want to have a Duns and Bradstreet number where everything is tracked. Okay, so grants, government loans, SBAs, unsecured lines of credits, you're going to need to have a Duns and Bradstreet number, which everything is tracked there. So your EIN number, NAICS codes, addresses, business addresses, everything you should be making sure is correct and accurate, so that way it reports correctly to Duns and Bradstreet. Now, the credit score, instead of being called credit score, is called a PAYDEX score. And here is the score ranking ranges. So anything from high risk is going to be 0 to 49, medium 50 to 79, low is 80 to 100. Now, if this is a brand new corporation, brand new LLC applying for a DNB number, you're going to probably start off with, you may be surprised if you start off with even an 80 by just having business credit cards. However, getting from 80 to 100 is going to take a lot more work, which can take the 1 to 2 to 3 year time frame. So as we go through everything, diving a little bit more into the Duns and Bradstreet number, it's going to contain a lot of this different information. So company profile, business information about your company, addresses, owners, key employees, industry codes, SIC and or NAICS codes, financial information. So anything that's available about your business, your net worth, working capital, anything like that will be reported to DNB. Payment information. So this is going to be really important that you're not missing payments. Set everything up on auto. Make sure that you're staying on top of it, because this will negatively affect your DNB number across the board. Business registration. So if it's available, it'll include information about the business, corporation records, government activity. So if you're in that type of business, it'll include any information about government loans, contracting information, grants. It really covers everything. Financial statements. If the business has, supplied any financial statements, they'll be able to see that here. So you want to make sure everything is correct and accurate when you're doing all of your business filings. Public filings, UCC filings, information about tax liens, judgments. Everything is going to be included in this credit report, including your business credit scores. So here's an example of what a DNB, credit report will look like, and how everything can pull up. So for this person, it'll cover a summary. So it'll cover any types of tax liens, judgments, lawsuits, total assets, liabilities, any types of tax liens that are on your business, any lawsuits pending, active, any judgments against you, all the UCC filings, and your payment experiences. So for example, they have 3 trade lines associated with their business. And remember, having multiple trade lines and having everything that is correct, clear, and accurate is what is going to help you to build a better score. You want to be in that 80 to 100 range and really push to get to over 95. That's when some of the best things start to happen for your business. So the next is going to be the Equifax Small Business. So Equifax has also been around for quite some time, since 1899, so they do have a lot of information on businesses. Now, on the Equifax Business Credit Score, they're not making it very easy, because it's actually flipped compared to your personal side. So for Equifax, they want you to have a lower score. So for business credit risk, there's really 2 scores, anywhere from 101 to 992. The lower the number is, the lower your business is at risk. So this one ranges from 101 to 992. Higher score means you're higher risk. So ideally, you're going to want to keep your business as low as possible. This predicts how likely your business to incur a 90-day delinquency or charge-off in the next 12 months. Next is going to be your business failure score. This ranges from 1,000 to 16 to 10. So again, higher score, higher risk, lower score, lower risk. So this will predict your business's likelihood of failing through bankruptcy within the next 12 months. So again, lower score, lower risk. So in the Equifax, these reports contain everything from company information, business name, address, phone numbers, and your Equifax ID, credit summary. This will contain full record business, credit accounts, banks, suppliers, credit utilization, public records, any liens, judgment, UCC filings, payment trend, payment index, so a 12-month payment trend, and comparison to the industry norm. Now, taking a look at one that we got from nav.com, this is what the business credit report looks like for Equifax. Shows delinquency scores, all the report highlights, numbers of accounts, open, closed, anything charged off, right? So you don't want to have any charge-offs, total balances, and all of the personal information and business inquiries that show up on your credit report. So kind of similar to a personal credit report, but with just a little bit more information, such as liens and judgments, and things like that. So focus on keeping low scores for Equifax. Just basically pay the stuff on time, no delinquencies, and you'll be in the clear. So next up and last is going to be your Experian Small Business Report. So just like Dun & Bradstreet, they're a global reporting agency, and here's what their rank score looks like. So this is their Experian IntelliScore range. So these ones are going to range from 1 to 100, just like the PAYDEX score with Dun & Bradstreet. So again, you're going to want to get to as close to 100 as possible, because this will be the lowest risk. So 76 to 100 is going to be your lowest risk with the Experian IntelliScore. They're going to be reporting all the same type of information, all your personal information, company profile, everything that is associated, just like the other two. And a quick look at one might look like. Just like Dun & Bradstreet, it's going to be very familiar. Everything that's influencing your score, your full summary, all the inquiries, everything reported. The only benefit to Experian versus the others is you can actually self-report trade lines, whereas the others you can't. It's also very similar to the personal side. You can do the same thing. So in the previous videos, we talked about the 3 different business reporting bureaus and how those report and what they do report. This is actually one of the most used credit scoring systems, and this is going to be your FICO score. So this score ranges from 0 to 100, and this is a collection of all your scores. So you're going to want to make sure that you have, again, the highest scoring. If you're paying attention to the other 3 bureaus, then you're going to end up having a good business FICO score. Let's go over a quick checklist of things to have for your business setup. So 1 is going to be your business name and domain. Want to make sure you can check and make sure your domain is clear before you purchase the domain. Business email address. You can get this depending on where you set up your domain. A lot of times they offer that service too, to set up a few business email addresses included. Business address. Now remember, with the business address, you don't want to use a PO box. You don't want to use a local UPS store or something like that. You want to have a business address that shows a business building. So if you really are at a business and your business is worked out of an office, that's great. If it's not, you're going to want to find a virtual address that shows a true business building. This is really going to help when lenders are looking at your business, because they will check the address. Business phone number, separate from your personal phone number. Website is going to be key. A lot of times businesses do want to check, or lenders do want to check your website to see if there's legitimacy there. Establish an entity. Again, if you're using any type of company to set up your entity, they offer a lot of these services for you. Or you can just go directly to your state's website to apply for the EIN. Also for the NAICS codes and SIC codes, and apply for your DUNS number. Depending on your business, you might need a business pro forma, so business plans, operating agreement templates, service agreement templates, mutual NDA, all these templates will be provided, and your business bank account. Not all businesses are going to need the full pro forma. Again, if you're just, doing, e-commerce or whatever type of business you are, you may not fully need that, but here is a full checklist that you can, write down and follow to set up depending on the type of business. Step 2, you're going to want to register your business with the 3 bureaus. So Duns & Bradstreet, Equifax, and Experian. This is fairly a simple step. You probably should have already, registered at least for your DNB number. If not, you can go to all 3 of those websites for Duns & Bradstreet, Experian Small Business, and Equifax Small Business and get your business registered. It's quick, it's simple, it's easy, but you're going to want to go ahead and do that to start building your business credit. Okay, so next I'm going to show you how you can actually establish Tier 1 and Tier 2 with vendors. So take a look at how you can establish history with Tier 1, and each tier will take probably 2 to 3 months. And again, if you haven't already, register with nav.com. Now, check out this vendor list. Companies like Shirtsy, Crown Office Supplies, Uline, I wouldn't use Quill anymore, Wise Business Plans, Office Supplies, Webstront, Restaurant Depot. These bottom 2 are going to be specifically for the restaurant industry. Now, think about any of the normal everyday purchases you're going to make. You may not think to purchase through any of these places like Crown Office Supplies. You may just want to run down to Office Depot and get what you want. However, by making accounts with these companies, and even if you're only spending, $50, this will help to build up your PAYDEX score. So take some time, get an account with a couple of these to register with, try to make at least a $50 order, each month for 2 to 3 months to build up, past Tier 1 to get into Tier 2. Once you get into Tier 2, you're going to be with companies like Best Buy, Lowe's, Home Depot. If you're in auto parts, you can go, with that. I wouldn't really do Target anymore, but Staples, Costco, Sam's Club. As you can see, these are already places that you might shop at. So by also signing up for, a business account with them, net 30, 60, 90, you're also going to get discounts. So why not take some time to build your business credit and apply for, vendor accounts with some of these all the way to get through Tier 1 and Tier 2. Do this for 2 to 3 months to help build up that PAYDEX score. And if it's something that's beneficial to you, then you can continue to use these and continue to build up your score for already everyday shopping that you're doing. But now you have the opportunity to not only get a discount, but to build up your score. Something that will probably really benefit you is getting some of these gas cards. So once you kind of do these steps for 2 to 3 months, now you can apply for some of these Exxon, Chevron, Shell, Wex, whatever it is, wherever you're at, what's closest to you, to start using a company gas card. This will probably be one of the fastest things to build up your PAYDEX score and get you through the different tiers. So lastly is going to be our Tier 3 and Tier 4 categories. So as you approach into these, you should be around month 5 or month 6, as long as you are following the steps prior to make it through 1 and 2. Now, applying for fintech cards, no PG, here's just a list of a few that you can use, like Divvy, Capital on Tap, Tilful, Brex, Ramp, Carrot. Use them regularly for 3 to 6 months to help boost yourself into Tier 4. Now, not all of these cards are going to have some of the great benefits like the 0% interest business cards. However, these types of accounts are the ones that are going to be, in that Tier 3 for, vendor categories to push you up to Tier 4. Once you get into Tier 4, now you're applying for revolving business lines of credit. Companies like Lendio, Bluevine, Fundbox, Fundera, Funding Circle. Here's just a pretty decently sized list of different companies and different institutions that you can apply for those. Now, when you're looking into these, they're all going to have different features, different terms, different rates, and it's all just going to be what is going to be best for you and best for your business. But I wanted to leave this here. So if you're interested in moving up from these tiers, again, not everybody's business is going to need this. However, for the ones that are looking to get into those higher tiers, build a really strong business PAYDEX score, have solid business history, and potentially maybe even sell it one day, these are going to be the different things that you're going to want to do and build really good history and credibility with all these different lenders. Welcome to the personal credit section.
This is going to go over the basics of personal credit and the benefits of having a good personal credit score. So this will ultimately save you thousands of dollars. So whether you've learned about credit in school, from your parents, or self-taught like myself, there's a true power to having a good and even great credit score. A few reasons. Step one would be good interest rates on a mortgage. So you may already have a mortgage or getting one or have multiple, have had one in the past. You've probably experienced, if you have good credit, what it was like to have the lower interest rate, or if you didn't have great credit, what it was like to not get such a great interest rate, and how that can end up costing you thousands and tens and even more of thousands of dollars over the life of that mortgage. Number two, this kind of works the same, but lower interest rates on auto loans. Now, I used to work in the car business a while back, and I personally saw this day after day. Somebody with great credit, they got qualified for all the top tier programs, all the best rates, all the incentives. And then somebody that didn't have good credit or even had bad credit, they were shopped out. Your credit was ran dozens of times, tons of inquiries, and you end up paying hundreds of dollars more per month on that auto loan. So there's a massive benefit, especially in these two spaces, for having a good personal credit score. Now, if you are a renter or have been a renter or going to rent, it's a lot easier on an approval to renting a house or an apartment with a good credit score. A lot of times we don't realize that, this stuff will be getting checked, but they do a credit check to get into an apartment or a house. Now, if it's one of those places that's not doing a credit check, you may want to reevaluate the area. Next would be better car insurance rates. This is also something that's checked. And again, all of these things start to add up month over month, year over year. Not having a good credit score can dramatically increase all of your payments over the long run. Also, getting approved for the best business credit cards and personal credit cards all heavily rely on your personal credit score. So there's tons of great credit cards out there that cover travel points, cashback rewards, and several different things. However you like to live and go about your life, you can pay for these things using credit card points, but not if you don't have a good credit score. So we can also show you how to do that on the personal credit side, but the main reason we're here is to talk about business credit. So you do need to have a good, if not great, credit score to get the highest approval ratings, the highest limits, and the best point cards that are out there, and even all the best 0% point cards that are out there too. So these are just a few reasons why it's important to have a good personal credit score. Welcome back. I want to cover the 5 factors of your FICO score and how you can utilize this to achieve the highest score. Now, before I dive into this, remember that with credit, things can be fixed. What I'm talking about is collection accounts, inquiries, even bankruptcies, sometimes even student loans. So there's a lot of things that can be fixed, but it's also important to understand these different percentages and these 5 factors. So if you don't have any of those negative things, but you're not quite at the level that you feel like you should be, this is going to be the area that you want to focus on, so that way you can optimize your personal credit score. So I'm going to go over them now. So payment history is 35%. So that's obviously a huge one. So it's important to, maintain good payments. A trick for this is just to put everything on auto pay. You can still look at it. You can still review your bills. You can still make sure you weren't overcharged. But auto pay, especially once you have a business, once you have multiple trade lines, all things happening, you need to be on auto pay to avoid late and missed payments. 30% is going to be your credit utilization. So this is literally what it says, just how much of your available credit are you using. 15% is going to be your credit age. So as you probably know, the longer that you've had credit, the higher that brings your score up. 10% is going to be credit mix. So this is just a variable of different types of credit accounts, such as credit cards, auto loans, recreational loans, home loans, lines of credit, so on and so forth. A good mix is what's going to help boost you the most. And then credit inquiries is also 10%. So let's dive a little bit deeper into each of these areas. So payment history, obviously this one having the highest single impact on your score. This is going to show lenders whether you've paid past credit accounts on time and what type of risk you're going to be if they're going to be extending you credit. So remember, this is the most important factor for the FICO score. So best thing you could do, again, is to put everything on auto pay and don't be the one that, whatever happens, you can get sick, you can set reminders on your phone, but something happens and you're going to miss a payment, you're going to be late, and it's really hard to get those off. It's not impossible, but it's tough. So to avoid yourself that headache, set up auto pay on everything you have. And you could still make early payments. I pay my cards off every single month, but I still have the automatic pay on just in case. Number 2, credit utilization, the second highest impact on your score. So this is going to be the total debt utilization on all your cards, all your revolving credit and charge accounts. So you want to keep this credit utilization low. You've probably heard having under 30% credit utilization is optimal, and I would agree, but even lower is better, especially if you want to get approved for business cards. If you have below 20% of credit utilization, this is going to tremendously help you. I would say 30% would be like the max. Just try not to go over that if you want to truly optimize your score. Okay. So the important part to this is to pay your bill 5 days before the statement is due. So pay your bill off 5 days before the statement due date. Okay. This could be different than your payment date. And the best way to find this is to look on your statement, find the statement due date, and pay it off 5 days before that. If you pay it at the date that it's due, on the statement date, then it's going to still show that you're, maxing out your card or using it. Sometimes you might max your card out every single month and pay it off every single month. Max it out every single month and pay it off every single month. But if you wait till that last day to pay it off, it's still going to report as if it is maxed out all the time. And this will tremendously bring your score down, being that it is 30% of your overall score. So look at your statement, find the statement date, and pay it off 5 days before that. So that's a good tip for you. Next is credit age, being at 15%. So the longer your credit history is, the higher it's going to increase your FICO score. Now, what if you're saying, well, I only have 3 years, I did credit repair, I did whatever it was, but I've only got 3 years. What am I supposed to do about this? Well, there is such thing as trade lines and authorized users. So this could be a friend or a family member, who has good credit, who has a high limit on a credit card, but is using maybe 5%, 10%, less, maybe a little more. They can add you as an authorized user. This has been called a lot of things over the years: piggybacking, trade lines, authorized user. But the whole idea is they have good credit, they have long credit history, they can add you as an authorized user to that card, and then their credit will then piggyback onto yours, giving you longer credit history, showing that you have higher access to debt. But it's important not to allow someone to be an authorized user for you if they don't have a good score. If they have a $2,000 limit credit card, they're going to add you to it. That's not going to help you. Or if they have a $30,000 limit credit card and they're using $25,000 of that card, that's also going to hurt you. So it needs to be a strong credit profile. And as long as you know them, you're close to them, you guys trust each other, they can extend that credit line to you, and they don't even have to give you the card. They can keep the card. It can get shipped to their house. You'll never have possession of the card. However, it will still positively reflect on your credit report. So that is a way to bump that up. But also keep in mind, you never really want to do more than 2 or 3 of those, because lenders can see that it is an authorized user, and they are smart and they do understand that, people do this. So 2 to 3 and you should be in the clear. Next is a good credit mix. So this is pretty simple. A lot of times I come across people who say, I just have one credit card and everything else is paid off and I'm debt free. Well, that's good. However, that's not good to a creditor, because they don't know if you're going to be able to pay them back or not, or if you're going to be able to manage multiple lines of debt. So in reality, it's best to have credit cards, retail accounts, personal loans, auto loans, home loans, multiple types of lines of credit. This will show that you can manage a whole portfolio of debt, and you're keeping everything under 30, 20%. You're going to be an A-type person to lend to. Next is going to be new credit lines. So this is where the hard inquiries are going to come on. How many and in what time? So the inquiries are really only going to stay on your credit for the next 24 months. Okay. Now, even though they're there, they may not be hurting you unless you have a lot in a short period of time. Now, it's going to be negatively affecting you in the first 6 months, and then it'll be affecting you for the first 12 months. And then after that, it's not really affecting you, but it is still showing up on your report. So try not to open up too many things at one time on your personal credit report. Business is different because it's not going to report to your personal side. And if inquiries do show up, then those inquiries actually can be removed as well. So make sure to really pay attention to this and really to have a balanced credit profile, so that way you're not overextending yourself and you're maxing out the right way. Welcome back. In this section, we are going to cover the difference between a FICO score and a Vantage score. So they have many differences, and these are used to predict what type of risk or a safe bet you are when applying for any type of credit, mortgage loan, anything like that. So the Vantage is easily accessible for you and it's free, whereas the FICO score typically costs money to be able to view it. And also there's several different FICO scores. So depending whether you're trying to get a car, a mortgage, different credit cards, they all use different FICO scores. However, if you're focused on having an overall good credit profile, then it's not really going to matter to you which FICO score they use, because your overall credit profile is going to be good. So these scores both range between 300 to 850. Now, the Vantage score is something that you're probably familiar with, like Credit Karma. This gives you a overall snapshot, and it's good to just check to see where you're at, without, paying for anything. So Credit Karma can be useful for that. However, I have seen Credit Karma off on average of 40 points and sometimes up to 100 points. So don't always trust what Credit Karma is saying, that's your true credit score. Now, another place to have a free check for your FICO score is going to be from Experian. So you can download the Experian app, and it's free, but it only shows you your Experian FICO score, which is typically a little bit higher than the other two bureaus, because they have Experian Boost and they have a lot of different tools that you can use to boost up your Experian a little bit, whereas Equifax and TransUnion don't have those same levels of technology at this time. Maybe they will in the future. However, I do recommend to have a paid service. One of my favorites is Identity IQ, best option all around, especially for building a roadmap and a plan. It is a paid service, but it's like $28, $25, $30, just depends, where you can kind of find it at. But it's important to have that paid service if you don't already. But at this point, I would assume that you probably would have an account already, and that's where you can actually check everything that's reporting on your report. All the inquiries, your whole report history, everything, which you're just not going to have access to on Credit Karma. So
in this type of a game where we're trying to get you the best cards, we're trying to get you, the best point cards and 0% and all these different scenarios, it's important that you do have access to be able to see your entire full 3-bureau credit report score. Welcome back. So now we are going to cover primary accounts versus authorized users. This is important because a lot of times we want to boost our credit profile by adding in an authorized user, which can help. But again, too many of these things, too many authorized users, too many trade lines can also negatively affect you. So I just want to start out with saying try not to have more than 2 or 3 of these to get you the right boost. But it's also even more important to have primary accounts. So what's a primary account? That's the primary owner of that line of credit. That means that you went and applied, you got that loan, that car, that credit card, you're the primary on that account. Even if you co-signed for somebody, you're the primary, you co-signed for them. If somebody co-signs for you, then that means that would also be a co-signed account, but it's not as strong as the primary account. That gives you the biggest weight when somebody's, when a creditor is looking to extend any type of credit line to you. Okay. So with the primaries, this is going to help you increase your score the most. This gives you more primary accounts, which is more access to funding. You'll ideally want to have 5 before moving to business cards. So 5 primary accounts can be a mortgage, it can be cars, it can be credit cards, it could be lines of credit. It can be anything where you are the primary on that. And I do talk to a lot of people who, again, say that I have one credit card and I keep it paid off. And that's good. It makes you feel good that you don't have debt. However, to a creditor, that doesn't look good. They want to see that you can handle multiple accounts in different areas. That's where the variety comes in, and that you're responsible with those cards and you're keeping a low balance on the revolving debt. Okay. So to have a perfect score, you're going to want to have 24 plus primary accounts. Keep in mind, that doesn't mean go out and apply for 24 different things, because that's going to really hurt your score. This is typically built over time. And honestly, once you start getting over 720, 750, high sevens, having a 750 versus an 800, it's not going to give you more access to something that you didn't have at 750. Have the goal to get to 800 and above, but realistically, if you're in the high sevens, you're already where you need to be for anybody. That's going to look really good. You're ahead of most of America, and that should be the goal. And then over time, you'll start to creep up into the 8s. Okay. Now, an authorized user has different terms. This could be called piggybacking on somebody else's credit. This is also known as a trade line or authorized user, or AU for short. So this is somebody who has added somebody else to an existing credit account. If you have a husband, a wife, a family member, mom, dad, uncle, somebody close friend that you trust, and they have great credit, and now that card that they're going to add you to should have a high balance, typically over $10,000, and they should be using less than 20% or realistically 10% to give you the best score bump, and also should have some good age on that account too. So just a new account that they're going to add you to, it'll help for the overall, credit limits. But if it doesn't have any age to it, that's not going to help boost you as much as if somebody who had an old card that they're not using that much, and they'd be willing to add you to it. And remember, they don't have to send you that card either. They can add you as an authorized user. The card can get shipped to their house. It'll have your name on it, but they never have to give it to you. So there's really not going to be a risk to them other than just helping you out. Okay. So that can help you to boost your profile overall, but try to keep it with someone that has a good credit file, has good standing, that card is good, and try not to do more than 2 or 3 authorized users. So this can help to boost you up a little bit. So when should you do this? If you have high utilization on your other cards, and you're not in a position to necessarily pay them all down right now, this would be a good time to have somebody add you, or even a couple different people add you as an authorized user to boost your overall credit utilization. Okay, so take a look at your profile, see where you're at, see if this is something that you would need or not before pursuing it. And if so, then you can look to see who is available and who can help you. Okay, if they don't have perfect payment history and they don't have stuff like that on that card, then you're going to want to steer clear of that card. And if they add you to that card and then they rack it all the way up, 100% utilization, that's also going to hurt you. So it's important when picking the right person to add you as an authorized user. So that kind of goes into making sure that that trade line is in good standing. This is very important. That's why we cover it multiple times. I've seen it happen all too often. Somebody adds you and it actually hurts you more than it does help. But remember to let them know that there's no risk for them. They can cut the card up, they can freeze it, they can shred it, they can burn it, they can do whatever they want to do. Just make sure it's a good card, good standing, in good history, and that person is someone that you trust, and they're going to be able to help you out and add you to that. So that's a quick way to give you a little bit of a boost on that side. Now, something else to keep in mind. American Express and Citi cards can have an issue with reporting. So I would try to not use those if you're looking for a trade line or authorized user to help you out. They may not be reporting as much. So for example, if that person's had that card for 10 years and they add you to it, it may not report as a 10-year-old credit line. It may be brand new to you. So that may not give you the same boost that you're looking for. So try to stick with Chase and Bank of America for authorized users if you can. Okay. Then your credit file will update 3 to 5 days after the account owner's statement close date. So try to plan ahead a little bit before adding, authorized users, so that way you can move freely into what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Welcome back. So in this video, we are going to cover what you can do if you don't have somebody that can add you as an authorized user. So first, we always recommend to try to use a family or a friend or somebody that you know that you're close to, spouse, that can add you as an authorized user to their account, because that's free and it's no risk to them. However, we do understand that sometimes that this just isn't an option. So we like to use this website called Tradeline Genie. So you can go to tradelinegenie.org and you can take a look at their trade lines. Now, they also do have an option that if you have really good credit history, and you do have some available trade lines as well, you can become a card holder. So if you want to make a little extra income, you can become a card holder and offer up your trade line. You can add it here. And this is just a way to make a little extra income if you'd like. Now, what you're going to want to do is go to trade line orders, then choose and select the types of trade lines that you may want to work with. Now, remember from our prior videos, we talked about American Express and even sometimes Citi not reporting correctly to your credit report, or just not reporting at all, or not giving you the full credit history of it. So it's been kind of happening this year. It hasn't always been like that. Maybe it's going to get fixed, but just keep that in mind. So when you come into this section, you could take a look of how many spots are remaining, the types of cards and the limits, the statement date, so when they're going to be reporting, and the price that they're charging for that trade line. Now, this is reflected on a 60-day term. So if you're planning to get funding, you're planning to do something else, you can always come here, plan ahead a little bit. It'll last for a 60-day term. Okay. So you can even take a look at what you might be needing. Now, remember that typically for business funding, they're going to give you a 2 to 3x, sometimes more, multiple on what you have on the personal side. So this are all for the personal side. Here's a Wells Fargo card for $11,000. It was from 2019, so that's decent. There's a lot of American Express on here, but there's more Wells Fargo. $2,500. That one's a little low. Probably wouldn't go with that one, but here's a good one. 2022, $29,000. Price is $215,000. Again, that covers for 60 days. 7K, 6K, 11K, 10K. and then the list goes on and on and on and on. So there's a lot of cards in here that you can use for a trade line, different ages. The older, the better. Wells Fargo, 2017, 9,000. So you can get a couple of these if you need to. But it's still good to have some on the personal side. So it's important to have some of your own personal cards, but this is a really powerful tool to help boost you up on the personal side when you're trying to get approved for the business funding. So take a look at this if this is something that you can utilize. Again, this is if you don't have somebody on the personal side that you can use and hop on their trade line. This is a great tool that we use that you can go on and get that trade line that you do need. Welcome back. So now we are going to talk about credit line increases. So this is going to come down to timing and your personal situation. So you currently have credit cards, you currently have credit lines with your bank. Maybe you didn't know that you can actually ask for a credit line increase, and you're going to want to do this because this is going to allow you to have more spending power. It's going to give you a more wide range of things that you can apply for. So you're going to want to get, ultimately the goal is to have the highest credit limits as possible with the lowest utilizations. Okay, so a lot of these creditors will allow card members to request credit line increases through their website or user portal. So you can always sign in and submit your request, or you can always call to do that as well. Now you will have to sometimes submit or update personal information, sometimes your annual income, sometimes it's only stated, sometimes they do verify. So you're going to want to call that company and ask how they do it. And also another key thing to do is to ask if this is going to be a hard inquiry pull or a soft pull. If it's going to be a hard pull, you're going to want to avoid that credit line increase altogether because you don't want to add more inquiries onto your personal credit report. Okay, so that's the important thing that you need to do. So this will give you ultimately a better chance if your account has been open for 6 months to a year. And you don't want to, if you just got a credit line increase 3 months ago, you're not going to want to ask again. You need to at least give it 6 months since the last time that you did apply for that. Now, times to do that, like I was just mentioning, you recently got a raise, when you have good credit and you have a good track record. If you have late payments, missed payments, derogatory remarks, your credit's not looking good, there's no raise, you even got a decrease in pay, that is going to be the wrong time to ask for a credit line increase. And especially if they're going to do a hard pull, you're going to want to stay away from that one. But if you recently got a raise, your overall utilization is low, then that could be a good time to call and ask for an increase. Now, if you plan to just pay off a card one day and then go and ask the next day, you might want to give it a little bit of time to reflect on your account that balance is either paid off or paid down, hopefully below 30% before applying for that increase. So timing is very key for this type of situation. So have good credit, have a good track record, hopefully making more money, then you can ask for that higher increase. So take a look at the cards that you do have and decide which ones that you want to try to make a credit line increase for. And once again, double check if this is a hard or a soft pull and avoid the hard pulls on that credit line inquiry. Do this, and this can help you on your first round. You want to do this before your first round of business funding to try to raise the limits on the personal side. Because remember, we can get you a 2 to 3x typically on the business side of what your personal score is. So this will overall increase your credit score and give you better odds at getting approved and getting approved at much higher limits. I hope this helps. Welcome back. So I want to take you through a website. This is really a tool to help you find the new and most up-to-date credit cards that are available in all categories. It's a very trusted website. It's called creditcards.com. So cards, card offers, deals, they're changing all the time. Just depends on what's going on in the market, what incentives are out. So to stay up to date, there's a few websites you can check out like NerdWallet.
But I like creditcards.com because this is what their website looks like. And you can go through these 6 different categories to truly identify what it is that you're looking for. So if you're somebody who likes to travel, then you're going to want to go in and look for the types of travel credit cards that are available. If 0% intro, balance transfer, cash back, rewards, card matches, or just overall best cards, you can dive into these different categories. So let's go take a look at 0% APR. So as you can see, this is up to date as of November of 2023, which is when I'm filming this now, but they keep their site up to date with all the new cards that are out. So this is going to be one of the best places to look, and they do give you an option to apply right through here, or you can go to the website. Or what's also recommended is if there is a bank that you do already have a relationship with, then you're going to want to go in, for example, Chase, and sit with that relationship manager to apply for that specific card, because most of the times you can actually get a higher limit while going through a relationship manager versus just online. Some banks, there is no location, so you do have to do it online, but you can kind of pick and choose there. So take a look at some of these cards. 0% for the first 15 months, 0% intro APR balance transfer period. Now, I want to highlight the balance transfer. You don't necessarily want to apply and get as much limit on the very first round as possible. You do want to maybe save a little bit for round 2 and round 3, specifically for this reason. Let's say you got $150,000 on your first funding round, and that was plenty, to do whatever it is that you were trying to do, whatever your business is, grow and scale. Now, let's say that those balances weren't paid off in the first 12 to 15 months. Instead of jumping right into the regular APR of 8 or 17 to 28%, you could even do a balance transfer and transfer those old balances onto a new 0% card. So you can come on here and find what's going to be the best for you. So as you go into, you can read, the biggest thing is going to be the cashback match intro bonuses. So look and find what it is that you might be looking for. Is this 0% 15 months? A lot of 0% 15 months. And you can always look and see just kind of how the market's looking and find what's going to be best for you. Now, keep in mind, Capital One, although I do like some of their travel cards for the personal side, on the business side, Capital One is most likely going to report to your personal credit. So keep that in mind. I typically do not advise for somebody to start off with a Capital One on the business side because it will report on your personal credit. Now, if it's on the personal side, then they do have some good travel cards. So pick and choose wisely when going through these, but the best thing is to find what's going to be best for you. See, this Discover only has 0% for 6 months, while this one has it for 15. The Inc. is a very good card. Although it's only 12 months for the first 0%, it is still a great card. They do have a lot of benefits. Now, while going through these, let's say you want to look for travel. This is a big hitter for a lot of our clients. They do like to travel. There's a lot of business travel that happens. And you're going to see this card as one of the reigning champs, the Chase Sapphire Preferred card. Now, they have a great intro offer. Sometimes this is even up to 80,000 points. So keep an eye out. 60 is a really great intro rate as well. But while on travel or everyday purchases at home, you can get 5 times on travel purchases, 3 times on dining, and 2 times on all other travel purchases and more. Those points can really start to add up, especially if you're using this for your everyday purchases, business purchases. You can put everything on a credit card. I always try to tell people to make sure that there's a card in between everything that you're doing. There's no need to ever spend on a debit card unless it's a specific bill that could only be paid, from a checking account. If that's not the case, then do everything you can to put all your purchases on a card, even if you're going to repay it off the same exact day, to take advantage of all the points that are out there. Capital One Venture Rewards, they have a smaller intro rate, but they have a lower score to get qualified. So as you can see, all of the details are here. 80,000 points. Amex always has some great rewards as well. And Amex actually has a great cash back card as well. So if you're spending a lot on a month-to-month basis for your business or even personal, you can get several $1,000s back every single month just making the same exact purchases that you were going to make. Now, the Venture X rewards, I would recommend more on a personal side, but they do have a great intro offer also at 75,000 miles. So if you're going to be traveling a lot, flying a lot, this is definitely a good card to look at. And you can see what they're looking for. That's a higher credit rating to get approved for this card because of the level of points that they do give back. And if you're trying to avoid an annual fee, I would take a look at this before steering away from these types of cards, because the amount of miles that you're going to rack up, just from your everyday spending would greatly outweigh what the annual fee is. So keep that in mind. If you see an annual fee, it's typically for a reason. It's typically they have better offers. For example, only 25,000 points on this card, no annual fee, and only 1.5 times points back. Versus just a much more significant offer. Now, cash back, let's say that you're not a big traveler, but you do have a lot of spending that goes on the personal side or on the business side. Now, these are also incredible offers. This is a great card as well. On the personal side, you can earn 10% cash back on purchases made through Uber, Uber Eats, and a lot of different Uber memberships. So there's a huge benefit to these as well. As you can see, this website is very detailed, has all of the up-to-date cards, everything that's going on in the marketplace right now. I highly recommend spending some time on this website to find what's going to be best suitable for you and everything that you do to best suit your lifestyle. There's literally dozens of cards on this website, and it gives you the exact categories. And then we could dive into the business cards. Now, see, I know this is an attractive offer, but just keep in mind that this will report to your personal credit side, which is something that we're trying to avoid. Here's our business cash credit card. Again, Ink is a great business card. You see a lot of Ink on here. Another Capital One. Another Ink. 100,000 intro offer. And then business gold. So take some time. We're going to make you personal recommendations, but also take some time to review this site and find what's going to be best suitable for you, your business, and your personal side. And this does update month to month. Personally, I have this card. I love the Hilton Honors. They do have great points and the ability to rack up points very fast with 12 times, especially when you stay at a Hilton or a Hilton property. Now, I have a friend that travels to Hawaii every year. They stay at a Hilton right on Oahu, and it's a roughly 6 to 7 day trip that they do every year, and they stay for free. They just from everyday spending throughout the year, that trip would normally be roughly $6,000 or $7,000, but by just utilizing their point cards the right way, they love to travel. So this is great for them. They don't have the business version. They have the personal version, which has a little bit higher annual fee, but they also have higher multiples to get you more points on the back end. So guys, take a look at all these different cards, and there's a little snapshot here to compare the best business cards right here. Go through the site, start with the category that is most interesting to you, take a look at those cards. You could even consult with us, but this pretty much gives you all the information that you're going to need to make and choose wisely. Welcome back. So briefly, I wanted to go over what the 524 rule is with Chase. So Chase can be one of the most pickiest banks, however, one of the best banks also to work with. So you're going to want to prioritize in order when applying for your cards. So the 524 rule states that if you've applied for more than 5 personal credit cards in the last 24 months, then they will automatically deny you, regardless of your credit score, regardless of your credit profile. Now, this isn't necessarily specified on the business side, and they will take this on a case-to-case basis. However, they may approve you or they may not approve you. So if you're going through rounds of funding, then you might want to consider starting with Chase first and then moving on to the different rounds. And again, they will judge you on a case-to-case basis, especially on the business side. Personal side, it's a hard cutoff, 524, that's it. So simple way to get around it, prioritize Chase, put them first, get those approved. For the business side, get the hard inquiries removed, and then move on to the next round of funding.
Welcome and great having you on board. We truly appreciate you being here and are confident you'll get tremendous value from the information to follow. In this section, we'll be reviewing the strategy, how it works, the pros and cons, and everything you need to know to get started. Take notes and make sure to knock out any action items you need to take for maximum results. Let's get started. Let's dive into the old or traditional ways of funding you may have heard of or even done in the past. You'll soon discover the inefficiencies of traditional methods if your goal is to scale or grow your business. The traditional routes seem to benefit the other parties involved, like the bank, with our funding, with us being stuck holding the check. Now, the first route is working your 9-to-5, saving up money where possible, assuming you're not like the majority of Americans that are living check to check. While realizing this route can take forever and will most of the time result in you putting off your plans or dreams indefinitely, which also means you're trading your time for money. You're not taking advantage of the strategies that successful entrepreneurs take of having your money work for you, leveraging resources so you make money while you sleep. That's the first route. The second route is asking your friends, family for capital to help fund your business idea. Now, we strongly recommend avoiding this path, even if you feel the idea is incredible and there's nothing else like it in the world. You may feel it's guaranteed, but statistically, you'll end up ruining the relationship. We've seen too many incredible relationships destroyed over a few bucks. It's not worth it, especially if you can take other routes on getting to your destination. Now, the third route is using personal credit cards. This can be tricky because our minds tell us the card is already sitting in my pocket. Why not use it? I know I'll make it work and pay it off. And a lot of the time, your company does take off, but you're also adding an unnecessary stress to your life that isn't needed. The addition of revolving debt when first using your cards to higher limits will affect your credit score, and at times it takes months or years to recover from, even if your business is successful. You do not want to commingle personal and business. We'll talk a lot about this. If the debt gets out of control, interest starts eating you alive, and you have no additional income to cover it, you'll start a cycle that's hard to recover from, all while destroying your credit, which leads to higher interest rates or denials when purchasing items you may need in the future. Lastly, taking out personal loans, which goes back to commingling personal and business. If banks find out that plan is to use your personal loan for business purposes, it can end badly for you and them requesting the funds back immediately. We've seen this happen, which gets really ugly if you already spent it. Makes sense, right? The interest rates are usually high, and the monthly commit is something that most can't handle when getting their business off the ground for the first few months, because they typically have little to no money coming in and personally financing it out of their pockets. The best exaggerated example of personal loans would be payday type loans, right? Those insane interest rates will bury you in a hole that you'll never recover from. It's a short-term solution while creating a long-term problem. So be mindful of that. So these are some of those that we want to make sure that we avoid, if at all possible. Thanks. See you in the next one. Now, some of you may be looking for credit cards that you can do a balance transfer on, or maybe you want to stay away from the particular banks that we've called out for you to use, or maybe you've maximized your efforts with those banks. Another great place that you can access some information on credit cards is somewhere like nerdwallet.com. They share a ton of information, have a lot of their partners called out on there. You can just flow through a ton of different credit cards based on the information you plug in and based on the criteria that you're looking for, whether it's no interest for 12 to 18 months on new purchases, or being able to balance transfer X amount of money at 0% for a certain amount of time. There's a lot of great websites out there that allow you to do these things, but this is something I would use as a secondary option. First, start off with the credit stacking methods to make sure that you're maximizing your potential and relationships while you build out your business. Don't forget that we're implementing long-term strategies, not simple, quick fixes. Long-term is what you want. Social media may have led you to us and can be an incredible tool, but can also be massively misleading and only shine a light on extreme overall examples. You'll hear of people, getting business cards for $200,000 to $300,000, which is doable. The truth is that the intelligent way to approach those types of limits should be stretched out over months to possibly years, depending on your business. Repeat that section again. Most people are running businesses from a solo perspective, which adds a strain to our personal credit, as previously spoken about. A way to achieve those figures faster is to leverage a business partner, and you both go back and forth. One person applies for business credit cards with their personal guarantee, PG, you'll hear this a lot, like I said. They'll remove the inquiries, season the accounts and relationships, and while the seasoning is happening, you or your partner can be applying and you maximize the efforts. Again, you're going back and forth. One person does it and the other person does it. Another fact to keep in mind is you don't want them all at once. You do not want all the cards at once. The largest benefit of these cards is the 0% for those extended months. Don't forget, those 12 or 18 months of 0% interest starts the day of issuance. If you get 5 cards all at once, then you can't stretch out the interest-free benefit of the cards. If I apply today and get $40,000 across 3 cards, hypothetically, I typically can run my business with one of those cards. The other 2 become a waste of that introductory rate. But if you stagger them out and apply for another one a few months down the road, now you can use that card once the intro rate ends on your first card. Simply put, apply for one of the cards, use it, and about 3 months before the card's intro rate ends, apply for another card. Now, if you truly need more funds, the multi-card option is obviously there for you. Be strategic with your business and this information. Take advantage of these banks. Maximize those incredible reward points you normally wouldn't get in traditional credit methods, and you should be applying these strategies to all your businesses moving forward. So remember, there's benefits to that 0% financing, or that interest rate that you get, better said. Make sure you're being mindful of it and strategic. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next section. Credit stacking with a stacking company, right? There are companies that will do this process for you to a degree. The entire point of this course is to put the control in your hands, to show you how to fish and not just be fed fish. Now, the great thing about knowing how to do it yourself is you no longer have to pay someone to do it for you. The companies typically doing this process you're learning about are called stacking lenders. And I said previously, they do the process for you most of the time. Keep in mind that they typically do not have your best interest in mind. And now here's the thing, guys. I don't want to sound like I'm bashing anybody. That's not the point of this. I just want to make sure that you guys are being mindful of your businesses, your money, and that's why we want to teach people how to be empowered, right? So I'll explain. They charge a percentage of the amount of resources that they get you access to. So their main goal is to approve you for as many cards as possible, regardless of the true necessity. Rewind, pause it, play that section again. Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, that's exactly what I want. I want it all right now. If you were paying attention in the previous chapters, you should already see the downfall of this method if truly taking advantage of the 0% financing. The other side of it is if you apply for 20 cards, you risk the chance of blowing up your personal credit with an extensive amount of inquiries. So if you plan on making a large purchase, like a car or even a home in the next 6 months, these companies could be a counter to the previous success of that transaction, right? So it's kind of the pros and cons here, another layer to the previous video. The other portion I always stress is to keep as much money in your pocket as possible. Yes, there are times to leverage experts and be mindful with your time, but when it comes to paying a flat fee of $8,000 on average and or an average of 10% and sometimes up to 15% of the funds acquired, it can be in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $30,000 for some of these programs. It starts to add up. And keep in mind, that's a fee you'll have to pay every single time you reapply in the future or for other companies you may own that you're doing the same process for. Talk about expensive, right? Let's put a spin on it. Let me kind of reverse it for you guys a little bit here. Think about it from a different angle. If you get paid $20,000 to learn how to do this process, would you learn how to do it? Somebody said, we're going to pay you $20,000 to learn how to do this process. Would you learn how to do it? Well, that's essentially what you're doing by keeping your money in your pocket. And even crazier is that this can very well be hundreds of thousands of dollars kept in your pocket over a lifetime of a single company, not to mention various companies you may own. The information is in your hands. Now, go put it to use and you're welcome. So how does it work? First things first, let's make sure you're getting yourself pre-qualified and know where you stand. Don't jump into the deep end of a pool to find out you can't swim. We'll add a link throughout a lot of these videos for you to definitely leverage. A specific one that we'll probably add on here is to make sure that you guys sign up for a credit monitoring system to see where you truly and accurately stand. Things like Credit Karma aren't up to date and have a ton of lagging factors when it comes to specifics or even a lot of lacking information. With that out of the way, you want to make sure you ideally have a 720 score across all 3 bureaus. You have no items in collections or as charge-offs. You can't have any derogatory items on your profile. You don't want any more than 3 hard inquiries in the last 6 months and no more than 6 over the following year after those 6 months. So technically it's 18 months. It sounds kind of weird, but when we talk, it'll make a little bit more sense. You want to have 3 to 5 revolving accounts and 2 to 3 credit cards open on your personal side of your credit profile to build out this strategy efficiently. If this isn't you yet, let's get after it and start making it happen and build yourself up correctly and again, strategically. Look where you are, or look to where you already spend money and look for cards that you can benefit from and get incentives for already shopping, staying, or traveling with those companies. Another good place to start is with an existing bank you already have a standing relationship with. See what cards they offer on the personal side and you can apply online. Or the better way is to go into the location and link up with the branch's relationship manager. So again, the relationship manager at your local bank. Relationship managers typically get bonuses or perks for signing people up. So ultimately it really does, it creates a win-win scenario. You can build a personal relationship, and they typically can get you additional bonuses not offered online. So going in does have its advantages. When it comes time to come back for the business strategy, you both are familiar with each other. Use the cards intelligently while building your credit score even higher. And once done on the personal side, you've set up the business cards. You can start replacing those recurring business expenses with cards, all while benefiting from the rewards those business cards will get you. So again, in summary, make sure you're taken care of first. See exactly where you stand. Build up your credit profile if it's not done yet. Get the credit cards that you need in place on a personal side. When possible, leverage those account managers. Go into the actual branches. Make sure you just develop those relationships. Come back, and then you're going to set up those business credit cards and those relationships as well. Makes some sense when you kind of have it laid out for you. But some great information. Make sure you act on these things. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next section. Let's talk about some of the pros and cons. Now, transparency is a huge part of our success. And all too often, others will talk about all the highlights of a program and don't share any of the pitfalls. It's just not reality. Let's share the pros and cons to make sure we stay proactive with our business and not be reactive. Pros are, you don't need collateral to get approved for these business cards. We've talked about that already. You can take advantage of those 0% rates, which a lot of times can save tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime of a business. You're getting cash back and reward points along the way that you wouldn't have gotten with most traditional routes or by using debit cards. It's a fairly simple process, and the best part about it is that you can repeat the process with the same and any other businesses you have now or in the future. Some great pros, right? Some awesome stuff that's there. Some of the cons. The cons are that you need to use your personal credit score to get these cards, especially to get started. So you may not have the score or history or previously spoken about it, and it can take longer to achieve. Another con is that once these intro rates are done, the normal default APRs, some of these interest rates tend to be higher, and is exactly why we recommend stacking cards over time and not at once. We've spoken about in previous chapters, stagger it. You don't want everything at one time. Take advantage of those 0%, right? Another great feature is if you keep your personal score high and act responsibly, is that there tends to be plenty of cards you can then roll over existing balances to new cards and continue the 0% rates. Pretty cool, right? But don't make a plan of that. That's not really just, I always like to tell people hope is not a plan, but it's something that you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of. So hope shouldn't be a plan, but as of the making of this video, it is very much the case. You can roll over those balances. There's a lot of cards that have those intro and rollover balances of 0%. Just make sure to pay your cards off and treat them the same way that you would your personal cards, and you should be absolutely fine. Another con is that you have multiple cards. We've noticed people will forget about cards at times and forget to make the payments. It sounds really obvious, but it happens. We have a lot of things going on, with it resulting in late fees and possibly affecting you and your business negatively. Now, you can set up auto payments for the minimums, but don't rely on that system, as bank systems will act buggy at times, and we've seen auto pays get shut off. We strongly recommend you download apps to track your bills and accounts. You're a business owner, and until you can leverage a company or a bookkeeper, make sure you do everything you need to so you stay in business. Again, if you're proactive and responsible, the cons aren't really cons, but more obvious results of leveraging funds. Pretty simple. See you guys in the next one. Credit stacking with a stacking company, right? There are companies that will do this process for you to a degree. The entire point of this course is to put the control in your hands, to show you how to fish and not just be fed fish. Now, the great thing about knowing how to do it yourself is you no longer have to pay someone to do it for you. The companies typically doing this process you're learning about are called stacking lenders. And I said previously, they do the process for you most of the time. Keep in mind that they typically do not have your best interest in mind. And now here's the thing, guys. I don't want to sound like I'm bashing anybody. That's not the point of this. I just want to make sure that you guys are being mindful of your businesses, your money, and that's why we want to teach people how to be empowered, right? So I'll explain. They charge a percentage of the amount of resources that they get you access to. So their main goal is to approve you for as many cards as possible, regardless of the true necessity. Rewind, pause it, play that section again. Now, you may be saying to yourself, well, that's exactly what I want. I want it all right now. If you were paying attention in the previous chapters, you should already see the downfall of this method if truly taking advantage of the 0% financing. The other side of it is if you apply for 20 cards, you risk the chance of blowing up your personal credit with an extensive amount of inquiries. So if you plan on making a large purchase, like a car or even a home in the next 6 months, these companies could be a counter to the previous success of that transaction, right? So it's kind of the pros and cons here, another layer to the previous video. The other portion I always stress is to keep as much money in your pocket as possible. Yes, there are times to leverage experts and be mindful with your time, but when it comes to paying a flat fee of $8,000 on average and or an average of 10% and sometimes up to 15% of the funds acquired, it can be in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $30,000 for some of these programs. It starts to add up. And keep in mind, that's a fee you'll have to pay every single time you reapply in the future or for other companies you may own that you're doing the same process for. Talk about expensive, right? Let's put a spin on it. Let me kind of reverse it for you guys a little bit here. Think about it from a different angle. If you get paid $20,000 to learn how to do this process, would you learn how to do it? Somebody said, we're going to pay you $20,000 to learn how to do this process. Would you learn how to do it? Well, that's essentially what you're doing by keeping your money in your pocket. And even crazier is that this can very well be hundreds of thousands of dollars kept in your pocket over a lifetime of a single company, not to mention various companies you may own. The information is in your hands. Now, go put it to use and you're welcome. Your personal profile. Let's revisit this one again, add a little bit more depth to it. When it comes to your personal credit score and profile, we'd like you to take a slightly more aggressive approach to make sure that you qualify at the highest level possible your first time through. With that said, we want to make sure that you have at least a 720 score or above across all 3 bureaus. Make sure to not have more than 3 hard inquiries in the last 3 months and no more than 6 hard inquiries over the following 12 months. So the first 6 months, no more than 3. And then from that 6 month and 1 day to the next year, total of 18 months, you shouldn't have a total of 6 hard inquiries. Again, I hope that makes sense. We also want to make sure your credit utilization is under 20% on all of your credit cards. Credit cards should be under 50% when it comes to your credit mix, right? So what's the overall credit profile? How much of those are credit cards? How much maybe a car payment? There's other things that should be on your credit card, which we're going to dive a little bit more into. But ultimately what it means is that all of your credit that comes up on your reports, up to 50% of it can be credit cards. Your open accounts should consist of at least 3 to 5 revolving accounts under your personal profile. Another point that we'd like to see is for you to have at least 1 credit card with the limit of $10,000 or above. Not to hit you guys or everybody here with a double-edged sword, but there's another real oddity that comes into play when applying. And that's that if you have too many credit cards that are completely paid off, we've seen it to be a cause for denial. I know it makes no sense, right? Sometimes it's good to use a little bit of the credit you have accessible to reduce the available amount. Oddly, at times, doing the right thing all the time ends up being the reason you don't get approved. Again, I know it doesn't make sense at all. So if you have a ton of cards that are just sitting around, with zero balances, go use them a little bit. Be mindful of it just a little bit. Solid takeaway that you want to make sure you impose is to have your accounts funded at the banks that you're ultimately going to be applying for when it comes to these credit cards. So if you have personal accounts, make sure you have money in your accounts at those banks. If you have business accounts, make sure you have money in your accounts. Ideally, perfect world is to have $5,000 or above, and that'd be a great place to start. I know we're all starting off at different chapters, but remember, it's my job to give you your best case scenarios, and we then work backwards from there. Hope this makes sense. Need to give it another listen? Please do. See you in the next chapter. Building a relationship with the banks. Let me emphasize a little bit of what I spoke about in the previous chapter and the importance of building a strong relationship with the banks that you're going to be using for your credit stacking. If you already have relationships with banks that you're going to be using anyways, great, good for you. That's a one-up for you. But if you don't, what you're going to want to do is set up a business account and, if possible, even personal accounts at those banks on top of that. What you're going to want to do, especially in the business account, is if you can fund it with at least $5,000, like I spoke about. You're going to want to make sure that the money is seasoned in the account. And the good thing about it is that it typically doesn't have to be seasoned for long. We're usually talking about 2 to 3 weeks before applying for the cards. So again, not that long, under a month here. Now, that's not mandatory, but it will help you with the techniques and what you need to do to ultimately get the extra access that you can use. There is one slight exception to this rule, and that's if you're a brand new business. It's your very first business account that you're opening. In that example, you're going to want to show the bank that there is transactions and money going in and out of the accounts. Small amounts work when it comes to outgoing transactions. You're going to want to do this for at least a month. Put yourself in the shoes of the bank, and this will make a lot more sense, really, at the end of the day. In short, set up the accounts, season the money, come back, and start applying. Let's prioritize strong entities first. There are 4 categories that determine the strength of an entity. 1 would be the age of the business. For example, you're more likely to get higher funding if you've been in business for 3 years versus 1 month, right? 2 would be the entity's type. What is the NAICS code or NAICS code of the business, and what does it fall under? That ultimately determines the risk of that business and the industry that it's serving. 3rd would be if the business is cash flowing or is there money coming in and out of the accounts to show that it's a truly active and up and running business. And the 4th one would be the relationship with the bank that we spoke about in the previous section. Stronger relationships will get you higher approvals. So keep these 4 factors in mind when applying for credits and the possible outcomes attached to those applications. If you have multiple businesses, you're going to want to start with the business that has the strongest entity or the strongest factors backing it up when you think of these 4 categories used to determine a strong entity. Hopefully you took notes on this section. If not, make sure to go back and give it another listen for those 4 categories. See you in the next section. We understand that people have different backgrounds and start off with different scenarios. So you wanted to share a little bit of a hack that you could possibly take advantage of. If all of your credit bureaus aren't stellar across the board, one thing that you can do is learn about the different cards you're applying for and if they pull information from all 3 credit bureaus. This is considered a slow buildup process. However, there are cards that only pull from 1 or 2 out of the 3 credit bureaus. Let's just say, hypothetically, you have great credit in credit bureau A and B, but not in C. Find the cards that only use the information based off of those A and B bureaus, while also putting a freeze on credit bureau C so no information is accessed as a precaution. What happens in these scenarios is that if they do need information from the third bureau, hypothetically, right, they'll send you a letter, or sometimes they'll give you a call letting you know that there's a freeze on the third bureau, and if you can, please remove it. At that point, you either call them back or ask them if they can give you an approval based off of just the two bureaus that they ultimately still do have access to, which is basically what you have stronger credit scores with. You'd be surprised at how often they say yes. But in those rare examples where they do say no and they ultimately do need to see the third bureau, you just let them know you can't remove the freeze. That simple. And there won't be any hard inquiries, not even a soft pull that comes up on your credit report, because they were never able to access or finalize the process. In those examples, if it's a card that you must have, you're going to want to go into ultimately credit repair and have a company take care of that for you. Now, you can feel free to ask us about credit repair, as we do have a separate division that handles that for our personal and business owner clients. And ultimately, you'll want to use a reputable company that offers truly expedited services, at least as an option, which is exactly who we are and what we do if you do have a necessity for it, but only if you do. Take care. Talk to you in the next one. How do I choose the correct business credit card? There are so many factors that go into choosing the correct business credit card. And what it ultimately comes down to is what your lifestyle looks like. Some of the common banks that you're going to be applying for credit cards with are going to be banks like Chase, US Bank, Bank of America, American Express, just to name a few. Some cards have yearly fees, but the perks that you get with those cards can very easily offset those fees if you use it to its maximum potential. Chase has some incredible cards that are co-branded with hotels or airlines. The exact same thing applies to American Express. There's also some perks in different banks that companies like Bank of America have, where there's cashback offers. US Bank has the exact same thing. There's so many directions you can go in, so ultimately what it really comes down to is which is the correct direction for you. Again, it really comes down to your lifestyle. There is no point in applying for an airline credit card that gives you a ton of miles and all these perks for flying on that airline if you're petrified of flying. You're probably never going to use that card, and you're going to miss out on all the perks that it offers. If you're somebody who's more interested in cash back, figure out which cards get you the best cash back offers. Now, the reason I can't go into specifics is that, number one, the cards are changing all of the time. So depending on when you watch this video, it's going to be completely different in 3 months, all the time. Again, another thing, number two, is there's always new promotions going on. And on top of that, a third one is that they vary from state to state. So let's reverse engineer the cards you're going to go after. Figure out what's the most important thing for you, your team, your business partners, maybe even your family. Are they hotel points? Are they airline miles? Are they cashback offers? Are they extended and extra points if you shop at grocery stores or if you go out to eat at restaurants? If I use it for office supplies, there are so many things that you can take advantage of and truly fine-tune your business, so you're maximizing these great benefits that you have access to. This may be an additional factor when choosing the bank that you ultimately sign up with as well. A great tool that you can use to have most of these cards in one place while simplifying which to choose is to go to like websites like something like creditcards.com. They're a great one, or any site that really allows you to compare multiple cards at once. So the one we just mentioned is creditcards.com. Take care. See you in the next one. Another great place to build business credit is through the use of gas cards. There are quite a few options you can take advantage of when it comes to fueling up your vehicles. And one of the benefits of applying for a business fuel card or a fleet business card is that it typically doesn't require your personal social security number. The approval amounts are typically based on the amounts of vehicles that you claim to have in your fleet. If you want to get approved for a higher credit amount, you may want to increase the amount of vehicles you state that you have. There are occasions where you will be required to put a deposit down, which can vary from $50 to $250 typically, and that really depends on how you fill out the application. What we've done is stated we had 10 plus vehicles in our fleet. That was based on the type of business we had at the time. That also allowed us to not have a deposit put down, and we've leveraged companies like Shell or Chevron. Another great location for you to check out and possibly apply is A2B.com. So that's www.tob.com. So ATOB.com, A2B.com. They have a simplified process for you to apply for discounted fuel. Now, the one obvious catch is that you can only use it for fuel. But if you're somebody who's driving around a lot or has vehicles that require a ton of fuel, this can be an incredible cost savings for your business while building phenomenal credit for that business. Enjoy. See you in the next chapter. Now, some of you may be looking for credit cards that you can do a balance transfer on, or maybe you want to stay away from the particular banks that we've called out for you to use, or maybe you've maximized your efforts with those banks. Another great place that you can access some information on credit cards is somewhere like nerdwallet.com. They share a ton of information, have a lot of their partners called out on there. You can just flow through a ton of different credit cards based on the information you plug in and based on the criteria that you're looking for, whether it's no interest for 12 to 18 months on new purchases or being able to balance transfer X amount of money at 0% for a certain amount of time. There's a lot of great websites out there that allow you to do these things, but this is something I would use as a secondary option. First, start off with the credit stacking methods to make sure that you're maximizing your potential and relationships while you build out your business. Don't forget that we're implementing long-term strategies, not simple, quick fixes. Long-term is what you want. We've been asked to set up a bank branch locator, and the daunting part of that is that there's multiple states, multiple banks, multiple locations with different businesses that have different goals attached to them. To put a list together like that would be incredibly time-consuming. Our recommendation is to use the tools that you already have handy. It might, again, sound incredibly obvious, but take advantage of Google. Be specific with your search. What is it that you're looking for? And it'll do a lot of that work for you. Another option that you can take advantage of, if you're part of it, is to ask the question in our community that we're building out for the members that sign up and come on board or even reach out to us. Now, maybe you're curious about a card and why not create a dialogue around it, right? I strongly encourage being part or being that individual or that business that brings additional value to the other people that are going through the same process as you to truly simplify and grow the incredible community that we're establishing for small business owners, which we genuinely feel are the backbone of the United States. So as much as we would like to make things incredibly simple for you and have everything at your fingertips, the banks are evolving along with credit cards they issue. It would require a staff of dozens of people working around the clock, making sure that everything is completely up to date and accurate, and it just isn't realistic and would be a waste of resources. In this area, we'd recommend to take some initiative, bring it back to the community, let's talk about it, and see if it really is a great strategy or plan that you can implement in your business. Hope this helps, and see you all in the next chapter. The commonality that we keep talking about throughout this process is going to be credit. To be more specific, your personal credit. So for us to always know where we're going, we have to know where we're at. Where do you stand today? What I need every single person going through this process to do is to find out exactly what's on their personal credit. Again, I know I'm being repetitive, at least for this first portion, but what I also want you to do is I want you to sign up for a credit monitoring system. Something like Credit Karma is incredibly inaccurate. I bring that one up because a lot of people sign up for Credit Karma. Yes, it has a lot of benefits to it, which is nice, but it's not up to date. It just really isn't. and it's nowhere near what the bureaus are using when they pull your credit. We'll always have some type of updated link on what we feel is the best company at the moment below for you to always leverage. They'll typically range anywhere from $20 to $30 a month. You can use it for a short period of time while you're getting set up, and after that, simply discontinue it if you don't see any of the value. It's not a big deal, but let's see where we are today. You want your credit report to be as flawless as possible to make sure that there is no unnecessary hurdles you need to jump over in order to get the funding you desire. Some things to look out for. You should only have your primary and current address popping up on there. Some of you may have decades of multiple addresses that pop up on your credit report, and you should remove those old addresses. Completely take them off of there. If you have aliases that pop up on there because somebody just misspelled your name, remove those as well. Any derogatory accounts or anything that's negative, also remove those and make sure that they're corrected. If there's chargebacks or closed accounts, they should all be taken off of your credit report to make sure that your score is as flawless as possible. Another factor is your debt to income ratio that you'll be calling out on these applications. So how much revolving debt do you currently have attached to your name? Are you drowning in debts? Are you one paycheck away from your life completely unraveling? Those are things that will come up and be seen on your credit report. And as a reminder, no more than 3 inquiries in the last 6 months and no more than 6 in the previous 12 months beyond those 6 months. Be proactive and don't set yourself up for failure. Again, ideally, we want to be aiming for a 720 and above credit score across all 3 bureaus. If this isn't you, but you can correct some of these items easily yourself, absolutely have at it. If you're lost, you don't know what direction to go in and how to correct these items or even where to start, feel free to leverage our credit repair side of the business where we have decades of combined credit repair experience. Just to name a few of our services, we have standard credit repair process, we have an inquiry removal process, we even have an expedited process that we typically use and help out our business owners with. Your credit at the end of the day is something that's incredibly private, and we understand that. And if there are any derogatory items on there, it's nothing to be ashamed of. I have my own stories that I went through, decades ago. But if you do have someone repair it for you, please make sure you're leveraging a company that's credible and that you trust, that will look out, ultimately that will look over your credit reports and give you proper direction. Now, always feel free to reach out to us without any obligations or commitments, none at all. We'll gladly point you in the right direction as a worst case scenario, but make sure to move on this so you're always being proactive and not reactive to the process. Hope this makes sense. See you in the next one. When it comes to filling out applications for some of the cards you'll be applying for through US Bank, American Express, Chase, or Bank of America, just to name a few, there are some basic criteria that most banks will typically go off of. Some examples of those are personal gross annual income that you can easily put down as $235,000 a year. They typically won't verify anything above or actually up to that number. Now, if you're making more than that, feel free to state that amount. That's something that you can make a judgment call on, but it will only help your case. If you're under 25 years old, we'd recommend keeping it under $110,000 gross annual income, unless, of course, you truly make more than that. The reason we tell you to do this is that most of the numbers that are going to be coming up on these applications are projected numbers. When it comes to your business's income, the gross annual income, you can easily add multiple 6 figures to whatever it is that you think you're going to be doing. Something else to be mindful of is they're going to ask you how much spending you'll be doing on a monthly basis. Be mindful of the numbers making sense. It's simple math, and I'll give you an example of it. If you tell the banks you're going to be making, or that you're going to make $100,000 a year, but you're going to be spending $200,000 a year in credit via your credit cards, you'll obviously get declined. You're literally telling them you're going to be $100,000 in the hole after just year 1. You want to make sure what you're stating as your projected gross annual revenue is higher than the amount that you'll be using on these credit cards. A safe figure to use for projected business revenue is right around $450,000. And they typically won't check or verify that information. As a reminder, though, you want to make sure you start any of this process, before you start any of this process, that your NAICS code, your NAICS code, is correct across the board. We do not want you applying if you're coming up as a high-risk industry. Just like we said in the previous section, we want things to be as smooth and as flawless as possible. Don't cut corners, or else you will be disappointed with the outcome. You've submitted your application and it's coming up as pending. A simple way to find out exactly what's going on with the process is to, first off, do a quick search on the card that you're applying for and also look up the reconsideration line or the reconsideration phone number for that particular bank or credit card. It'll more than likely be some type of toll-free number that you can call and simply ask them what's going on with your application. We always recommend being polite with the process. There are times that they'll let you know that it's in the process and you need to call back in the next 1 to 2 days. But most of the time, they already know if you've been denied or if you've been approved and for what limits. So keep that in mind. You got approved, but the limits are too low. So what do you do next? We hate to sound like one-trick ponies, but you probably guessed it. You're going to want to call back the reconsideration line that we spoke about in the previous 2 sections. Now, don't move on. We got some extra information that we want to share with you here. You may not want to do this, but sweet talking them absolutely does help, along with being incredibly polite. Making sure that you take ownership of the current outcome while also having a problem-solving mentality. Some ideas that help out are to let them know that you're ultimately trying to sign up with that particular bank because you want to establish a long-term, strong relationship. Let them know that you really love their programs, what they're offering, and the benefits that come with being part of their team, and that you want to expand your business with them in mind. That you can't wait to talk to other business owners about their bank and why they should bank there. A simple tip when it comes to sales is what's in it for you, right? Or what's in it for them. Here's an example. What's in it for the bank, right? If they ask you what amount you'd like to be reconsidered for, triple the amount that you originally got approved for. As an example, you got approved for $5,000 on that credit line or credit card. I'd like to be reconsidered for $15,000. 3x the amount that you got approved for in the first place. Now, a lot of the times this will add an additional inquiry to your credit report. But in the grand scheme of things, it's worth it. The reason being is that you've probably already applied to 3 or 4 other credit cards, so an additional inquiry isn't going to really make that big of a difference at this point. Let's say you get hit with another inquiry on your credit and you end up getting approved for an additional $20,000. It would absolutely be worth it. Because on occasions, you can go back through credit repair and have those inquiries removed. So remember, if you're not happy with the outcome, always be okay with pushing back and fighting for what you ultimately want. Just make sure that you do it as if you're all teammates that want the same outcome at the end of the day. This might be hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around, but think of the bank as your business partner. Let's talk about Blue Vine Bank. Most people haven't heard about it, but it's an online bank, and the thing that we like about it is that it serves as a business checking account, and the best part is you get 2% on top of all the deposits that you make. So the way that they reward you is by enticing you to put more money in the bank. The way that you leverage this bank ultimately is applying for their business credit card, and after approved, you would add somebody on as a vendor and they'll end up getting paid out via ACH, even though you're using the card you set up. You don't want to do high amounts, and this is a little bit of a slower play, but you can try out $4,000 to $5,000 twice within the first 2 weeks. Wait 3 to 4 weeks, then try it again. one transaction at a time, every week to 2 weeks. It ends up being a really cool hack because you can debit your credit card for purchases and it comes off as an ACH transfer, but you're ultimately liquidating your business credit card with less fees. Bluevine.com. Plastic.com. PLASTIQ.com. It's another option that you can use that's very similar to Bluevine, where it allows you to add your business credit card and then do ACH transfers to pay all your vendors through their website. There will be an ACH transfer fee of right around 2 to 3%, but it typically allows you to pay any bill you normally wouldn't have been able to with a credit card. It gives you an indirect way to liquidate your business credit cards while maximizing the perks that you got for using that credit card and remaining truly liquid with the cash that you do have on hand. So again, plastic.com.
Congratulations on finishing the entire course. Now you have everything you need to get 0% funding for your business. But here's the reality. Knowing this and actually executing it are two different things. If you want us to handle this for you, click the link below to schedule a call with our team. We'll review your profile, show you exactly what you qualify for, and if it makes sense, we'll get you funded. Link in the description. Now go build your business.